Hello, this is Dr. Paul Cottrell, and I am doing a live stream on YouTube. It is February 27th. I'm also going to be reposting this. I did episode 22, so take a look at that. That's important information. We're going to go over the news here and the markets. Thank you for joining. I'll also open up X Spaces, and you can do a live call-in if you'd like to do that. So please help support my work by making sure you subscribe to all my channels. I have 4 channels on YouTube, Brighteon, Bitchute, and Rumble. All the links are in the description of this video and all my videos. Also, please help support my work by donating. You can donate on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. You can donate through Stripe, PayPal, or Buy Me a Coffee, or you can be a paid member to my Patreon channel. It's through the donations and the people that purchase my products that allows me to do these videos for free. I have thousands of videos for you talking about domestic policy, international affairs, health and wellness, scientific issues or endeavors. So please help support my work. I don't put stuff behind a paywall, but I need your help. So please donate and or purchase the products on my store. Some of the products on my store are soaps, structural nano silver soaps. These are soaps that I use. So you can get them in charcoal tea tree and lemongrass, get a couple bars for your household, or you can also get lavender and peppermint structural nano silver soaps in the new packaging. Please go to my store, get the great structural nano silver soaps, use them every day. They don't have all the fancy chemicals that Procter & Gamble puts in their products. So please go to my store and get the great products that I have. These soaps, use discount 5 and get $5 off. Another great supplement to take to boost up your immune system is the Max 14 or Max 35. Take a teaspoon a day, swish in your mouth, gargle 20 seconds or so, and then swallow. If you're not feeling well because of the cold season, take a teaspoon or 2 a day, same thing, swish it in your mouth, gargle 20 seconds, swallow. It'll boost up your immune system. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Link is in the description of this video, and get the Max 14 or the Max 35. I take this every day. It's the first pillar of my health protocol, a 4-pillar process. The second pillar is C60 to soak up free radicals. The third pillar is to bring down inflammation, taking turmeric, ashwagandha, and lignans. And the fourth pillar is taking Boomer Boost to boost up your energy levels and your metabolism. So please go to my store, follow the protocol, get the Max 35 or Max 14. Take it every day. All right, I'm going to go to Bloomberg to get a market update here.
We go to Washington. Once again, your host, here he is, Joe Matthew.
All right, Charlie Pellet, thank you. Charlie, at least you sound like $1 million bucks. I don't know if you have the 401k, but boy, that's the Nvidia speaking, right? I mean, it's down today. You just heard Charlie, it's down $5. But think of how many people picked up shares of Nvidia a couple of years ago, and they just keep looking at that 401k. Come on, Jensen. We had the big earnings report last night. Went pretty well. Matched expectations, topped other expectations. When you look at the AI spend, this thing is chugging along, but the stock is lower this morning, and albeit maybe a little exhausted after such an advance. But of course, expectations were so high for Nvidia. That's why it's Nvidia. People expect a Christmas miracle every couple of months here. It doesn't always work out like that. So yeah, stock's trading lower. It's pulling a bunch of other shares lower with it. The Mag 7's down. A lot of the AI related names are down. AMD is down. Constellation, the cooling companies, all the stuff we look at typically when it comes to data center feeling this. So it's a kind of a market event. Here in Washington, it's a policy event. There are a lot of questions right now about whether export controls that have been turned on Nvidia repeatedly actually have any impact at all. Jensen Huang doesn't seem to think so. In an interview on the other network following the quarterly report, says it's unsure if these controls against China are effective national security measures for the U.S. It's hard to tell whether it's effective, responding to a question about whether DeepSeek proved the whole thing wrong. And that's where we start our conversation with Michael Shepard, who's with us in studio here. We wanted to talk to him in advance of the report, but of course, we spent a lot of time in the cabinet room yesterday. He covers the intersection of Washington policy and technology, senior editor for technology and strategic industries. Nice to see you the day after, Shepard.
Great.
So, big questions always when we sit down with Mike Shepard. It's never a small thought. It's a big thing on export controls, whether they're worth it at the expense, for instance, of a company like Nvidia when a DeepSeek just pops up and says, "Hey, we stole your stuff anyway."
Well, this is one of the big questions, actually, that was surrounding the Trump administration as it took power. And that was whether they would continue further down this path of trying to restrict China's access to advanced technologies, including chips and semiconductors, because there's a lot of impact on U.S. businesses. And, you know, the idea of restricting China, the world's second largest economy and the world's largest market for semiconductor purchases, it really does have implications for companies like Intel, but a whole bunch of others. And Nvidia, you know, of course, they do a lot of China business. And when it comes to export controls, Joe, they did acknowledge on the call, Jensen Huang himself said that, look, our China business is down a little bit since the export controls have been put into place. And that's been over the past couple of years. More recently, we've seen a new round right before Joe Biden left office. His parting gift to Donald Trump was a new three-tiered system of access, if you will, to AI computing power. And that is a set of limits on how many of these advanced semiconductors anyone from certain countries can buy. So in the first tier, we talked about Keir Starmer and his visit. The UK, of course, and very close U.S. allies would be in the 20 or so nations that get that.
Get all the Blackwells you want.
You're behind the velvet rope.
Yeah.
But if you're in kind of the big middle, you will have to, work harder to gain that access. You can buy fewer chips without getting an export license.
Sure.
And then if you're China, you're really in the third tier, like Russia and other U.S. adversaries, where it's much, much harder.
Yeah, at the same time, Jensen Huang said last night, there's a lot of competition in China. He named Huawei as a major competitor. Are we playing fair with our own companies here when it comes to an Nvidia, for instance, or are we holding back innovation?
And that is the very question that not only Jensen Huang, but other big CEOs have been raising. We heard Andy Jassy, who was interviewed by our colleague Caroline Hyde earlier today on Bloomberg Technology, basically laying out his concerns. Specifically for Amazon World Services, he said, look, not a direct problem for us. And yet he sees the risk in the same way that Jensen Huang does. You end up pushing U.S. allies toward other countries. He didn't name China, but maybe you push those other countries to try to acquire chips from Chinese chip makers like SMIC or others.
The other side of this is, of course, come on, it's the biggest company in the world from time to time. They're printing money. The backlog is so long, the pipeline, I mean, they can't meet the orders they're receiving. So why not turn the screws a little?
Well, what they're seeing is a loss of opportunity. And actually, Jensen did talk about this yesterday. And he said that, look, DeepSeek, presents a challenge, but it also presents an opportunity. And if we remember the week after DeepSeek introduced its revolutionary R1 chatbot, it really shook up companies across the board, but in particular NVIDIA. It's 17% drop on that Monday, a week after the DeepSeek release. One of the biggest market losses in history, really. But it highlighted the stakes for NVIDIA. But what Jensen was saying essentially was that, look, DeepSeek's innovation actually creates new avenues of demand potentially for us. You know, the demand for computing power through a model like this could grow exponentially depending on how it's deployed. Like the one-off of achieving and creating the model is one thing, but then when you put it to use, that's where you need the compute.
Interesting. As the White House kind of figures out where to go here, I don't know if we're getting any clarity from the administration on the number of nations that are on that list, for instance, or how they're going to handle this. Donald Trump met with Jensen Huang, talked about it in person just a couple of weeks ago. Is this like many things from this White House, whether it's tariffs, other geopolitical matters, where simply no one knows?
You're right, Joe. We are living day to day. And even yesterday, you talked about the cabinet meeting.
Yeah.
We got one message on tariffs against Canada and Mexico.
Right.
And we get another one this morning through the president's Truth Social feed about the timing of those levies and whether or not they would definitely go into effect and when and under what circumstances. And the same thing today with China. Tariffs too. He announced another 10%.
What does that mean for Nvidia and for this conversation we're having?
Well,
China tariffs.
You know, they did address that on the call yesterday. The CFO talked about it a little bit, and essentially they called tariffs a big unknown for them.
Yeah.
They said that they will comply, of course, with whatever measures the U.S. government imposes in this area, be it tariffs or export controls. But the tariffs are a bit of an unknown because it also raises questions about, well, what happens if there's retaliation by U.S. trading partners? What happens if other companies start to move in different directions? And remember, Nvidia makes its chips in Taiwan. TSMC is essentially its foundry. So, you know, tariffs on chips coming in from Taiwan would hit potentially Nvidia, and that would be a challenge. And if you're a hyperscaler here in the U.S. with data centers that you're building, like Microsoft, like Amazon, the cost of those chips would start to go up.
Taiwan came up in that cabinet meeting yesterday. Of course, you're instantly thinking about Taiwan Semiconductor, Nvidia, all of these designers who rely on the foundries in Taiwan, and he would not take a stand against China taking over.
He really shut it down, Joe.
What does this mean for what if you're Jensen Huang? How do you make plans around something like that?
It is difficult to do so. And, you know, they have been with the construction of plants and facilities here by TSMC here in the U.S. That does provide a little bit of a hedge. And in fact, that TSMC facility is producing chips at an early tests at an even greater yield than what they are getting back home.
Do we know when that's ramped up?
They're starting to ramp up right now.
That's a big deal.
And that is
actually the sort of legacy of the Biden administration, isn't it? That's what we never saw happen while he was sitting in the Oval Office.
It is, that's right. But at the same time, we are seeing that some of these other plants, including the ones that Intel has in the pipeline, are struggling.
That's right.
The facility in Ohio, they're looking for customers. They're looking.
Did he just pick the wrong company?
There's some questions about that, and I think that if we talk to Biden administration officials now after leaving office, they may have a different view. But they really did see Intel as a national champion. I mean, Intel Inside, Joe. It's something we have.
I can hear the jingle in my head right now.
Well, exactly.
Left on the side of the road.
Well, in a way, they've struggled in some of the same ways that other parts of the U.S. economy have struggled too. You know, the economy did evolve away from them, and a lot of manufacturing was moved overseas for a lot of different reasons too. The company transformed; it's trying to transform itself yet again into something that they hope would last, but it's been a struggle too.
We're standing by. I should mention this. We've talked to Michael Shepard for the arrival of British Prime Minister Keir Starmer at the White House. We've got our eyes on the West Wing as we speak, and it looks like the limousine is pulling up right now. This is a live view of the arrival, which will kick off a series of events that take place over the course of the day today, including a bilateral meeting in the Oval Office that will follow shortly. There's President Trump just coming outside to greet the Prime Minister as they shake hands here. If you're with us on YouTube, you've got a live view as Donald Trump points to the cameras and gives a thumbs up to the reporters who gathered in the driveway, the American and British flags there flanking the entrance to the West Wing. Another workmanlike arrival here. They're going into the Oval. There's no Marine Corps band playing. They are not outside on the portico. They're certainly not on the South Lawn. And inside they go. We'll keep tabs on that meeting. Of course, tariffs are going to be a big part of this conversation.
Definitely.
Mike, I know Nvidia may not be top of mind so much for Keir Starmer today, but he is on the list, as you mentioned.
Well, he is. And of course, they have a lot to talk about with Ukraine, but there is another issue that is kind of bubbling in the background. And this is the UK effort to get Apple to build a backdoor into its cloud data so that, law enforcement and intelligence authorities there have some ability to
So likely on the agenda when these two speak.
Very well could be. Yes.
Great information. Shep, thank you as always. Michael Shepard with us live in Washington as the visit officially gets underway. Prime Minister Starmer is now in the West Wing. We'll keep tabs on this for you, and we'll assemble our political panel next. G.D. Shanzano is with us alongside Chapin Fay today. So stay with us. We've got a lot to experience yet right here on Bloomberg.
All right, let me do a market update here. We have the S&P 500 trading at 5,956. VIX is trading at 18.72. Euro USD is trading at 1.04. Oil is trading at $70.15 a barrel. Bitcoin long ETF BITO is trading at 19.68. So there's stress in Bitcoin. And the USD Japanese yen is trading at 149.97. All right. While we're cycling through commercial breaks with the media, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the structural nano silver lozenges and drops. I have them in Manuka honey and also in elderberry zinc. So get the lozenges, get a couple bags for your household. You get 21 lozenges in each bag. It's made from the structural nano silver. The lozenges are bigger than the drops. Get a couple bags for your household or work. And right when you have that irritation from either the cold season or for the allergy season, take them right away to boost up your immune system and mitigate that irritant. So I have the drops. So you use them the same way as the lozenges. They're just smaller. You get 100 of them in each bag. And the flavors are cherry, and lemon, and also blueberry. So please go to my store and get the lozenges and the drops. They're high quality. Get a few bags for your household and for work. And right when you have that irritation, take them right away. All right? Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. The link is in the description. Use discount 5 on any order and you get $5 off. So get a few, get several different products. Stack these things the way I tell you to stack them and improve your health. It's a great way. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Now, another product that is really high quality is the deodorants. I partnered up with Rainbow Herbals and we developed these deodorants. They're for males and females, and it's a dual purpose deodorant. You use them as a deodorant, but it also helps to detoxify your body. It's made from essential oils from the Himalayas, and it's aluminum free and baking soda free. So detoxify your body. Use a deodorant either in citrus or in peppermint, lavender, and tea tree. It's for males and females. Get a couple bars for your household. Help support my work and Rainbow Herbals work. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Use discount 5 and you get $5 off any order. And lastly, boost up your immune system. Take supplements that boost up your immune system, like magnesium and zinc. If you're not feeling well because of the cold season, take a double dose. Take 1 dose in the morning, take 1 in the evening if you're not feeling well. If you're feeling okay, just take 1 dose a day and drink it with filtered water. Also, vitamin C with magnesium is a great stack to do together here, but this will help to boost up your immune system. You drink it with filtered water. Take a double dose if you're not feeling well during the cold season. Take them together and boost up your immune system. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the magnesium and zinc and the vitamin C and magnesium. Take them together to get the most benefit. All right. With that said, let's Gene Hackman died. So let's just go to CNN and their take on it.
What do you think I mean?
Well, I don't know. You're the risk taker.
You think I'm talking about breaking the law?
No, I'm just trying to figure out how far you want to bet.
As far as you can without breaking it.
In other words, no risk and high risk.
I don't give a damn about an opt. They just better not win.
That was iconic. Gene Hackman, alongside Tom Cruise in the 1993 film The Firm. It's so good if you haven't seen it. But we're all following this breaking news this morning that sheriff's deputies found Hackman, his wife, and their dog dead in their New Mexico home. The 95-year-old had long since retired from his storied career, which earned him 2 Academy Awards and 4 Golden Globes. CNN's Elizabeth Wagmeister is joining us now. Now, authorities, you told us earlier, don't suspect foul play. Is there any reason being given for their deaths yet this morning?
There is not, Sarah. And this, of course, aside from being such a sad story, the passing of an absolute Hollywood legend, it's a really bizarre story. Gene Hackman and his wife, along with their dog, all found dead in their home in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Now, as you said, police have said that no foul play is suspected, but they have not given a cause of death. This investigation is ongoing. Gene Hackman and his wife, they were found yesterday in their home in New Mexico. Now, Gene Hackman had really stepped out of the limelight for decades. He retired from Hollywood in 2004, and he and his wife had lived a quiet, relatively private life in New Mexico since they had moved there. Now, of course, one of the greatest Hollywood screen actors of our time, and we have seen a few tributes, Francis Ford Coppola, George Takei, but of course it is very early here on the West Coast, so as people are going to be waking up in Los Angeles to this sad news, I anticipate we will see many more Hollywood tributes come. There you see the 5 Oscars that Gene Hackman was nominated for, winning 2 of them. This is even more meaningful, coming just days before the Oscars are this weekend. I anticipate that we will get a huge tribute to him at the In Memoriam. But, you know, Sarah, back in 2011, when Gene Hackman was 81 years old, he was asked by GQ in a magazine profile how he wants to be remembered. I want to read to you what he had to say. He said, quote, "I want to be remembered, quote, as a decent actor, as someone who tried to portray what was given to them in honest fashion." Then he said with a laugh, "I don't know beyond that. I don't think about that often, to be honest, and I'm at an age where I should think about it." Now, back in the 80s, Gene Hackman sat down with CNN for an interview, and despite how great he was on screen, he actually said that he doesn't like to watch himself.
Unless you were looking at some other monitor, you weren't looking at it.
No, I don't like to watch.
You don't like to watch yourself? Do you go to your own phone?
No, I once in a while I'll see one, but I prefer to think of myself the way I feel, which is 23. And
Oh,
I
there it
see
is.
this old man.
There it is. I see.
Now, of course, 95 years is a great long life, and he had an illustrious career, but ending in this way, in such bizarre fashion, is certainly going to strike a lot of people. So again, Sarah, this investigation will continue, and hopefully we will have more answers very soon.
Joining us now to discuss the legacy of Gene Hackman, Segun Odulowu. He's an entertainment journalist. Thank you so much for being back with us again.
All right, I'm going to go back to Boomer because a lot is happening in the news.
Hearing from, we'll be curious to consider what the optics are going to be like and whether a kitchen table is involved. I'm Joe Matthew in Washington. Thanks for being with us here on the Thursday edition of Balance of Power. I see you, Axios, on this little Friday. We've got news at the White House. They're in the Oval Office right now.
U.S. pending home sales fall to record low on weather and rates.
Because it's in the Oval, we're not going to be able to bring you in there live, but we will once the tape comes out of there and they can play it back. There have been questions about this whole press pool thing and exactly who's going to be assigned to it each day, according to the White House. But this is supposed to play out essentially the way the Macron visit did a couple of days ago. You get the bilateral in the Oval, spend some time with the media, a little Q&A, warm things up, and then later on, it's currently scheduled for 2 p.m., and that will likely not be anywhere near the start time of the joint news conference in the East Room. Starmer, Trump. By the way, the British media, they don't ask questions the way we do around here. So This could actually get interesting when we hear some of the more pointed ideas from the British press. They're all here. Everybody's over there. It's a big crowd on the campus at the White House. And that's where we start our conversation with today's political panel. Jeannie Sheehan Zaino is with us, Bloomberg Politics contributor, Democratic analyst, and senior democracy fellow with the Center for the Study of the Presidency and Congress. And Chapin Faisback, Republican strategist, founder of Lighthouse Public Affairs. Great to see you both. Chapin, it's been a while. Nice to have you back here on the panel. Jeannie, we went through this together a couple days ago with Macron. There's already a different vibe, though, right, between these two. Donald Trump actually likes Keir Starmer and seems to want to offer some sort of deliverables, even if not in the actual literal definition of security guarantees. What's going to come out of this visit?
Yeah, I mean, it's an uphill battle for Starmer, certainly, because we heard from the president yesterday that, you know, the security guarantees that Macron came asking for and Starmer is asking for are probably not going to be forthcoming, although he did say that Russia would have to give up something. We don't know what that is. So maybe there's a little movement there. I think for Starmer, of course, what you were just talking about is the issue of tariffs. And I just loved your conversation with Mike McKee because love Mike McKee, and he said, there is no clarity here. So I said, oh, thank God, Mike McKee. I thought it was just me. But Starmer certainly trying to get some clarity on the tariffs, which are pending. So I think those are the two big things we're looking for. But of course, it is a really fraught time in Europe. And, you know, somebody just reminded.
What's wrong with not being clear when you're still doing negotiations? One, the negotiations are fluid. And if you're so clear, you've anchored yourself to a particular position that you may not be able to negotiate. And Trump is all about negotiating. And this is the reason why he seems chaotic, because things could change. And when it comes to these pundits on Bloomberg, they got to have absolute, you know, resolution so quickly. You know, like, you know, for example, they have to know who won the election, like the night of the election. They absolutely have to, even though you can wait until tomorrow or the next day.
I agree. We are not Europe's enemy. And I find that view a little strange considering, you know, America has been the world's piggy bank, the world's policeman, the world's protector, all of this stuff. And Donald Trump has a mandate to be transformational. So he's taking a look, rightly so, at these relationships. What are we getting out of it? How is it serving American interests? I think as opposed to the last 4 years, you're going to see a president who that's really his only concern. Now, you may disagree with what he thinks is in America's interest, but I think that's the framework that he's using for these meetings.
This is a different relationship, though, right? Isn't it, Chapin? It's one thing to have Emmanuel Macron. He says, hey, here's a manual. You know, there was a lot of kind of chest thumping between these two and trying to get the better of each other. He actually likes Keir Starmer. They've had a relationship going back to before the election, and there was a 2-hour phone call that followed Donald Trump's victory. He also likes the United Kingdom. He wants to get the invite for the state visit, spend time with the king, right? This is potentially a different vibe in this meeting today. Could it help Keir Starmer?
I think it could help both men. You know, relationships matter. For all the, you know, ballyhoo over, you know, Trump's relationships from his first term with, you know, dictators and, you know, North Korea and Russia, I mean, relationships matter, right? He cares about peace between Ukraine and Russia. So I find it very odd that everyone seems to be in favor of a war and more money and soldiers and manpower being sunk into this thing. So it is a different relationship. Perhaps the UK is a little harder of a target when you're blustering against world leaders than France is. But it is a historically important relationship too, and I think both men understand that as well.
The special relationship, Jeannie, facing a new reality today. What will it look like by the time there is a deal, presuming there is one, for Ukraine?
Yeah, first of all, to your point about him liking Great Britain, he certainly likes the royal family. And for, you know, you wonder if Starmer should have brought with him Princess Kate and Prince William, because he's no fan of Harry and Meghan, as we know full well, but those two he really seems to appreciate. So that may have,
I'm going to shift over to the Chief Justice. Chief,
Out of Washington.
Chief Justice Roberts halts order for payments to State Department USAID contractors. But before we do that, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the structural nano silver toothpaste. This will whiten your teeth, freshen your breath, help with your gum line, reduce inflammation, and with good oral hygiene, you're reducing cardiovascular disease and valvular disease. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Neutralize pathogens, reduce plaque. This is a very high quality toothpaste, has no fluoride in it. Actually, this is the best toothpaste that you'll be able to get. So get a few tubes of this toothpaste, go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, use discount 5 and you get $5 off any order. So get a few products or several products, use discount 5. And not only that, if you get the products like the anti-aging boxes or the longevity boxes, they're already discounted compared to buying individual products. So you're targeting a certain system and you're getting a discount. So it behooves you to actually get an anti-aging box or a longevity box. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the toothpaste. The link is in the description of this video and all my videos. Click the link, go to the store, get the products, get healthy. Lastly, this multivitamin is easy to digest. You should be taking a multivitamin every day as your stack. But because this is easy to digest, it's better that you get this one than other multivitamins out there that are harder to digest. All right. But you need multivitamins and minerals as cofactors for enzymatic activity. So your enzymes are working properly, so you have proper cellular processes. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get this multivitamin. You take it every day and use this with your stack that I will be talking about throughout this transmission. And again, get the products, use the discount, get $5 off. It's discount 5, all caps, number 5.
Where an overnight move by Chief Justice John Roberts allows a U.S. foreign aid package to stay frozen for now. Roberts paused a district court order for the Trump administration to pay up millions by midnight Wednesday. I want to bring in CBS News correspondent Natalie Brand, as you see there. She's live at the White House for us. Natalie, walk us through what we're hearing from the Supreme Court on this, how it reached its decision.
Good morning, Errol. And specifically what we're hearing from the Chief Justice, because it's Roberts who oversees requests for emergency relief from cases stemming from Washington, D.C. District Court. So that's why he made this decision last night, saying in this ruling that the administration did not need to immediately pay an estimated $2 billion in foreign assistance to pay for projects that had already been completed. Now, his ruling came after a federal judge here in Washington gave the State Department and USAID until midnight Wednesday to pay the bills. But the Trump administration argued that that timeline was impossible to comply with, that it required multiple steps to reinitiate these payments, and that could take multiple weeks. So they pushed back, appealed to the Supreme Court, and again, Chief Justice last night ruling, making this administrative stay, which is really just a pause until the Supreme Court can consider the case further, which is expected perhaps later this week. But Errol, this latest development comes as the Associated Press obtained a memo that the Trump administration plans or says it plans to eliminate 90% of USAID foreign aid contracts and around $60 billion in overall U.S. assistance around the world.
Wow. So the conclusion for what happens to it ultimately hasn't been reached just yet. And I know the president hosted his first cabinet meeting yesterday. Elon Musk, his special advisor, was there standing for a portion of it. What did they say about the firing of federal workers?
Right, this cabinet meeting comes as this new memo was released by the administration, which tells agencies to submit
reorganization plans, preparing for large-scale firings or reduction in force, submit those plans by mid-March. And Elon Musk, who, aside from the president, was the first featured speaker during this cabinet meeting, he was asked if the administration has a target number of federal employees that they are looking to cut. And he didn't put a number on it. Instead, he said that they're looking to eliminate non-essential positions or people who are not doing their jobs well. We know from this administration memo that agency heads have been asked to look for areas of, duplication or redundancy. But the issue of that directive from Musk over the weekend for federal employees to list their 5 accomplishments, that also came up. The White House saying that around 1 million federal workers had responded. But a reporter in the cabinet meeting asked, well, what happens to those other federal workers who haven't responded? Take a listen to what the president and Musk had to say.
Those million people that haven't responded, though, Elon, they are on the bubble. Now, maybe they don't exist. Maybe we're paying people that don't exist.
I think that email perhaps was best interpreted as a performance review, but actually it was a pulse check review. Do you have a pulse?
But remember, this highlights the continued mixed messages from the administration because, Errol, as you know, as we've reported, some of those agency heads told their employees not to respond, especially agencies dealing with national security. They said, pause those responses. We have our own procedures for internal review. And ultimately, the Office of Personnel Management had to say this is up to individual agencies to decide whether or not they want to make the employees respond to this latest directive.
Yeah, very important point. Natalie, thank you very much.
I think that we need to understand the full power of the presidency with these agencies, and it needs to go all the way to the Supreme Court, how it's, the restructuring of these agencies, the firing of employees, fighting against corruption and wasteful spending. This needs to elevate all the way to the Supreme Court and stop with these lower court decisions trying to circumvent the power of the presidency. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the vitamin B complex. The first 4 vitamin Bs help with the electron transport chains, so your mitochondrial health improves and your ATP goes up. Vitamin B complex helps with your cellular metabolism, and B12 will help to protect your neurons. It's really important to take vitamin B complex every day for people that are 40 years of age and older. Really important to keep those energy levels up and protect your neurons. Another great product that I have before I go to the next video is probiotics. I have 2 types. I have a powdered version in a small scoop, which I take with soft foods like hummus or yogurt. You can mix it with filtered water. It's a great way to take it every day. If you take different powders, it's great to just mix them all together and take them, in one sitting. Now, the other probiotic is in a veggie cap form, and you just take it that way. But both are very high quality, help with your gut biome, bring down inflammation in your gut, improve your metabolism, improve your gut and the energy absorption, improve the communication between your gut and your liver, and the communication between your gut and your brain. You're going to be able to think more clearly. You're going to sleep better. You're going to be less irritable. And not only that, you're going to be able to, when you have a good gut, right, and you're improving that immune system in the gut line, in the inner lining of the gut, there's a mucosal barrier. Well, if you have a lot of irritation in the gut, that mucosal lining starts to shrink. And what happens is your immune system goes down. Your IgAs, antibodies that are in that mucosal lining, start to decline in concentration. And not only that, because you have a smaller barrier to the actual cells of the inner lining of your gut, then you're going to start developing leaky gut syndrome, your allergies would start to increase. And then not only that, you can have mutations in the crypt of the gut lining where your stem cells are to repopulate your gut lining. If you have mutations at the stem cell level in the crypt, then what will happen is you're going to start to develop polyps. So that's a big problem. All right. So it's really important, all right, to have a good health, gut health, and you're going to improve your skin, your hair, and your nails. Like a lot of people that have problems with their gut, you can see it in their skin, or you can see it in their hair, or problems with sleep or concentration. And improving that gut health will also reduce the chances of early onset of dementia and Alzheimer's. So gut health is extremely important. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. It's the-studio-reykjavik.com and get the probiotic either in the powder form or in the veggie cap form. Use discount 5 and get $5 off. For the ones that are listening, you can do a call in on X Spaces, and just request the mic, and I'll pass it on to you. All right, let's go back to Bloomberg here.
Plus, we have to talk about the news we got from Donald Trump earlier today, posting on Truth Social, that in fact it is Tuesday, just days from now. 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico will be implemented. And guess what? They're going up on China too. And the market's having to digest all of that. So let's get a check on those now. Charlie Pellet has a look from New York. Hey, Charlie.
And good day, Kayla Lines. We have got the Dow higher, the S&P, Nasdaq. They are both in retreat right now. More than 300 shares in the S&P 500 index are higher, but mega caps getting hit hard today, right to the numbers of the S&P now lower by 3. Little change, 59.52 where we stand, down just under 0.1%. The Dow, as I mentioned, higher, up 282 points, up by about 0.7%. While the Nasdaq Composite Index down 119 points, down 0.6%. Nvidia, after earnings, down now by 2.9%. The 10-year at 4.29%. The 2 years currently yielding 4.09%. Gold down $32 the ounce, $28.84, down 1.1%. West Texas Intermediate crude above $70 a barrel now, $70.18, up 2.3%. And Bitcoin now higher by 0.3%, 84,707 on Bitcoin. Nvidia, as I mentioned, lower by 2.9% now after earnings. It did deliver good but not great quarterly numbers, drawing a muted response from investors who've become accustomed to blowout results. Also reporting earnings, Salesforce.com down 1.1%. It delivered a fiscal year revenue forecast that came up shy of estimates. And Snowflake now up by more than 8%, up 8.6%. Snowflake projecting better than expected revenue growth for the fiscal year, sending an optimistic signal about its adoption of its recently launched products for artificial intelligence. Recapping, the S&P down 4, lower now by 0.1%. For on-demand news, 24 hours a day, subscribe to Bloomberg News Now, wherever you get your podcasts. Balance and Power continues now in Washington. Once again, your hosts, Joe Matthew and Kaylee Lines.
All right, Charlie Pellet, thank you so much. And here in Washington, the headlines are flying out of the Oval Office as President Trump sits down with the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer. With trade on the agenda, we're just getting some news from President Trump about reciprocal tariffs. No surprise, he does want to charge those on European countries specifically, Joe, who he's saying have been tough with the U.S. on trade. He doesn't like the way Europe is treating U.S. companies, specifically through value-added taxes. The thing is, the UK, whose representative is sitting right next to him, also has a VAT tax that they charge. So does this apply to everyone?
This is probably a question that Keir Starmer has, and maybe they'll talk about this once press leaves the room. When reporters do leave, they'll transmit that tape out across the transom here, and we'll have it for you on Bloomberg. This could go on for, but based on what we've seen, a half an hour, 45 minutes. When it happens, we'll get there. Is a formal, by the way, a bilateral news conference that's scheduled for today. Less than an hour from now, won't likely get off on time, but we'll bring that to you as well. With the idea of security guarantees in the offing, and knowing that the UK Prime Minister, the night before he came to the US, announced increased investments in the country's own defense, in expectation of that being on the agenda today with the President of the United States. We want to bring it to the White House right now. Bloomberg's Tyler Kendall is on the North Lawn with more on how the events of today will unfold. Tyler?
Yeah, hey Joe. Well, Keir Starmer in the Oval Office right now, our reporters in the room keeping us updated. But President Trump, as you said, alluded to the fact that two big agenda items today, of course, the ongoing war in Ukraine and also tariffs. Now, Bloomberg News is reporting that Keir Starmer is expected to press President Trump when it comes to future security guarantees for Ukraine. Of course, his visit coming just days after the French president, Emmanuel Macron, was also here at the White House and noticeably left with not many concrete promises from President Trump, particularly after Macron had floated that France and the UK are working on a framework to get European peacekeepers on the ground in the event that a negotiated settlement is reached. He also floated that the US should underwrite that. But when President Trump was asked about future security guarantees out of this White House yesterday during his cabinet meeting, he really put it back on Europe.
Well, I'm not going to make security guarantees beyond very much. We're going to have Europe do that because it's in, we're talking about Europe as the next door neighbor. But we're going to make sure everything goes well. And as you know, we'll be we'll be really partnering with Ukraine in terms of rare earth. We very much need rare earth.
Well, you heard President Trump there allude to this critical minerals deal that the White House is trying to get over the finish line. This is something that we've heard from other administration officials, that they are viewing this as an implicit guarantee because the U.S. would have a vested economic interest in the country going forward. But Joe and Kaylee, I spoke to one foreign policy expert who said that it is difficult to imagine a sustained peace without some sort of tangible security guarantee from the White House along with it.
Well, the president was just asked if he thinks there's a chance Russia could reinvade Ukraine. He says he doesn't think so. What's the deal is in place. But on that rare earth deal specifically, we keep hearing the president talk about, Tyler, what is actually present in Ukraine that the U.S. thinks it can financially benefit from? Because my understanding is the geological survey doesn't suggest there are massive rare earth deposits in Ukraine.
That's exactly right, Kelly. So Ukraine does have large deposits when it comes to critical minerals such as titanium. Rare earth minerals are a subset of critical minerals, and they're of high importance, right? Because we see them used in a lot of high-tech goods and services. And President Trump repeatedly bringing that rhetoric into the fold, but it could impact some of the map that the U.S. is looking at here. It's also perhaps why we're seeing that revenues from oil and gas are also likely to be wrapped into this deal. Now, President Trump has repeatedly said that he is trying to get back on the U.S.'s investment in Ukraine. But Joe and Kaylee, very important to note that Zelensky has repeatedly remained firm that the conditions he negotiated, the aid and the security assistance that the U.S. has given to Ukraine under the last administration does not amount to any debt that needs to be repaid.
All right, Bloomberg's Tyler Kendall live at the White House. Thank you so much. Again, Keir Starmer still in the Oval Office with President Trump as they're discussing not only the war in Ukraine, but trade as well. The president right now fielding questions about what he said earlier today when it comes to the tariffs he's getting ready to implement or increase on Tuesday.
Yeah, that was quite a missive on Truth
Social.
I'm
gonna shift over to the Hill, how Trump overthrew neocon foreign policy establishment. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the olive leaf extract. This is a dual purpose product that you should be taking every day to help with your immune system and your cardiovascular health. It brings down inflammation and brings down LDL levels and increases your HDL levels. Omega-3 can be stacked with olive leaf extract. This also helps to bring down LDL levels and increase your HDL levels. Omega-3 helps to prevent your red blood cells from oversticking and creating clots. And omega-3 helps to bring down systemic inflammation. Please take omega-3 every day, and you get an additional benefit when you stack it with the olive leaf extract, with bringing down that inflammation and bringing down that LDL. With lower LDL, you have less oxidized LDL, so you have less plaque formation. It's really important, though, to also soak up free radicals, because if you soak up free radicals, LDL can't oxidize. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the omega-3, the olive leaf extract, and a very strong antioxidant like C60 would be a great stack to help with your cardiovascular health. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. And lastly, getting good sleep is really important. Get the Good Night Formula. This has tryptophan, melatonin, GABA, passion flower, and other other ingredients in here to help you go into 3 cycles of REM sleep and deep sleep, which is very important to detoxify your brain, to consolidate memory, and to be well rested. If you have chronic sleep deprivation, you are increasing your chances for early onset of dementia, and you will age faster. 100% guaranteed that if you do not get proper sleep, you will age faster. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Good Night Formula. Use discount 5 on any order. Get several supplements, get a discount, and stack the way I'm telling you to stack and improve your health. This stuff works, but you got to get them in your hands and use them. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the great supplements that I offer. Very high quality, and you stack it like I'm telling you, which is how I do it. You're going to get healthy. You're going to improve all these different systems in your body, including your immune system, and you're going to slow down the aging process.
With the old and with the new grand old party, President Trump has all but cemented a new path forward on the national security front. He's broken with Republican hawks, fired top military officials, including the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General C.Q. Brown, and has even taken steps toward Russia on the world stage. Simply put, Trump has remodeled the GOP in his own image without much pushback. Joining us now to dive into the new national security model is Burgess Everett, a journalist at Semaphore. Welcome to Rising.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you with us. So I think this is, a phenomenon that even people who don't follow politics super closely have now caught on to, that Trump has totally changed the foreign policy of the Republican Party, such that you can find people like Marco Rubio, his own Secretary of State, doing and saying things as recently as 2 years ago that are totally at odds with the things he does and says now as Trump's Secretary of State. Do you think this is actually a permanent shift, or if Trump were to somehow magically disappear, or this is his final term he's done in 4 years, will the Republican Party reflexively transform back into the way it was in the preceding decades?
It feels pretty permanent to me, and I say that for a couple of reasons. One is Trump's heir apparent is J.D. Vance. I think he's probably even more of a reliable steward of this sort of non-interventionist, they don't like being called isolationists, non-interventionist way of thinking. He's obviously...
Breaking news. The king has invited Donald Trump for an unprecedented second-term visit to the UK.
The most logical successor to Trump in 2028 when we get there. And then when you just look at the lineup of who is coming into Congress and who is leaving, the more traditional Republicans who would be called hawks, the John McCain wing of the party, who are kind of aligned with the George W. Bush way of thinking, they're on their way out, and people, the youngest folks, the newest folks coming in the Senate and the House are far more aligned with Trump and J.D. Vance. You can even see it on the Senate Armed Service Committee, which is basically split between these more senior members who kind of came in before Trump, came into Congress or politics, and then folks who came in after Trump. So it feels like a permanent shift to me, because Trump has worked hard behind the scenes to transform the party in these primaries and safe red states to get people that are simpatico with him from when he was in office to when he was out of office. And it feels like there's probably no turning back.
And, how is this impacting the electoral possibilities for the Republican Party? And I think there is a sentiment among certain conservatives that they all, the primary voters, the base, always kind of wanted a less interventionist foreign policy, was skeptical of foreign aid. Now, of course, there's, there's exaggeration of what part of the budget is foreign aid, but there was a kind of hostility to nation building and world policing and those kinds of things that just Republican leadership didn't quite get. But now they get it, or they've been forced to get it. Does this actually make them a more formidable party in terms of electoral success?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's super popular to get the United States entangled in foreign conflicts in general elections. I actually don't necessarily think voters vote on national security issues, especially foreign policy ones, as much as folks here in Washington like to think. And, you know, I think you can probably see that through supporting Ukraine. Like, there's a ton of reasons to support them in terms of our own national security and keeping alliances with our friends in Europe, including Ukraine. But I don't know that voters rewarded people who voted for Ukraine funding in the same way that they have a revulsion. Many of them have a revulsion for people who did vote for it, especially in GOP-based politics. I think that when you look at the incoming, these members get negatively. The folks who say and do things that are positive to Ukraine, you can tell that it attracts negative attention in the Republican Party now. Now, some people kind of shrug that off or balance it. You know, folks like Tom Tillis, who's definitely a Ukraine hawk, and he is careful about how he talks about it and careful about what he says, but he's trying to be consistent there. And people like him are pushing back in kind of these gentle ways. You know, they say, well, no, it's not Ukraine who started the war with Russia. It was Russia. But
Trump will be able to have a longer lasting foreign policy that goes way past his presidency if J.D. Vance gets in and the restructuring of the national security state actually happens underneath the different cabinet officials that have been confirmed by Congress. If they literally do the restructuring they need, make it more efficient, make it more, get rid of the deadwood, get rid of that administrative deep state staff, get the problematic leaders out of these institutions, then your foreign policy is going to actually be better. Restructuring the Pentagon, restructuring the CIA, restructuring the FBI, restructuring the NSA, restructuring the that administrative state, and having an heir apparent coming in like J.D. Vance is going to be able to set this in motion where this could be as fundamental in terms of new foreign policy to going all the way back to Reagan, right? And that push that he set forth even after his administration. So this is pretty foundational what's going on in the Trump administration. But these things have to happen. The restructuring of the national security state. That if it's not, then if J.D. Vance gets in, but the restructuring didn't take place, chances are J.D. Vance is not going to be strong enough to restructure the national security state. If you get the restructuring of the national security state done and you don't get J.D. Vance in, you have a chance of elements of Trump foreign policy to continue on in a different administration. But if you get that J.D. Vance and that restructuring of the national security state, then it will echo into probably 12 years after Trump's administration. This is pretty fundamental and foundational what Trump's doing. Very, very. But if he can restructure the national security state.
A ton of teeth behind that, and I think that's a big difference between this Trump administration and the last one 8 years ago. Because not only did you have Republicans in Congress who would contradict and publicly break with the president pretty consistently, folks like McCain, even Lindsey Graham, Mitch McConnell, when he was the leader, but you also had people in the Trump administration who were kind of checks on President Trump's non-interventionist tendencies, people like James Mattis and beyond. That's all changed, you know. Even Marco Rubio, as you said, who would have obviously been a check on Trump in terms of ideology. He's not really serving that purpose right now. He's more interested in sort of implementing the Trump agenda and being simpatico with him. So, you know, again, like the shift is pretty remarkable, and it's not even playing out in terms of an ugly fight anymore, because it feels like the Trump wing of the party is just won, and they're kind of thumbing their nose at the old school hawks.
But looking at how the old school hawks are, is this, you know,
And the
within
old
the
school
politics
hawks,
entirely-
these old school hawks, they're literally old school. They're going all the way back to the beginnings of the Cold War. They have a Cold War mentality. Well, the world has changed. We shouldn't have this Cold War mentality. We need the 21st century mentality, not the 20th century mentality.
When we look at how we are positioned externally, is this weakening our position? Will this weaken the United States overall?
I mean, look, it was a surprise to a lot of folks how the U.S. voted in the United Nations resolution earlier this week, siding with Russia against Ukraine. There's something on the Ukraine war. I think, you know, Democrats feel kind of lonely advocating for USAID, soft power, international development, and also funding Ukraine. So I do think, you know, when you look at our country's politics from the outside, from another country, we don't look like we're on the same page. We look pretty divided, and that certainly doesn't help sell yourself to other countries when you're doing diplomacy. They see a United States that's divided pretty painfully on ideological lines on things like national security and foreign policy, whereas I feel like even 10 years ago, there was a little bit more of a consensus among both parties to do so, and I do think that gave us more heft on the world stage.
First Everett, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Sure, thanks for your interest.
All right, so that's that. All right, there's federal workers give 15 minutes to pack up and leave office. And then there's Bondi, looks like this will make you sick. Pam Bondi to release some Epstein files. All right, so let's go to the Epstein file.
The overall goal here with those team is to help address the enormous deficit. We simply cannot sustain as a country a $2 trillion deficit. We spend a lot on the defense department, but we're spending over $1 trillion on interest. If this continues, the country will become de facto bankrupt.
We're cutting down government. We're cutting down the size of government. We have to. We're bloated. We're sloppy. We have a lot of people that aren't doing their job. We want to have a balanced budget within a reasonably short period of time, maybe by next year or the year after, but maybe even sooner than that.
President Trump and Elon Musk focusing on cutting government waste at yesterday's cabinet meeting, the first cabinet meeting with the full cabinet. Congress now considering how to pay for the agenda included in the House budget resolution. Some senators concerned about potential Medicaid cuts, while others think the House did not go far enough on
I
cutting
wanted to
spending.
know about the Bondi thing.
Savings, Musk and the cabinet are doing a great job.
This is just this. Oh, here we go.
It's it's agenda.
Senator, you sent a letter to FBI Director Kash Patel demanding the full release of the unredacted Jeffrey Epstein records. Attorney General Pam Bondi revealed some of the Epstein files will be released today. Here's what she said. Watch.
This will make you sick. 200 victims. 200. So we have well over 250 actually. So we have to make sure that their identity is protected and their personal information. What you're going to see hopefully tomorrow is a lot of flight logs, a lot of names, a lot of information. But it's pretty sick what that man did.
Senator, you said you're going to release what you know. What can you tell us?
Yes, indeed, and I've been so pleased that AG Bondi and Director Patel have worked with me on this. As she said, we have to make certain that these victims, and it is over 250, that their names are redacted, they are protected. And Maria, And this is going to be a phase 1 release in short order. I will have the hard copy in my hand. AG Bondi is responsible for what will be the public release on this. She has worked diligently on this, and so appreciative that we can begin to get this information, that we can begin to break apart what became a global human trafficking, sex trafficking ring, about $150 billion a year business. It is time to get some justice for these victims, for these women and children. And this will be a phase 1 release. There will be more to come.
That is unbelievable. I mean, we talk about all the sex trafficking and drug trafficking by dangerous drug cartels. And meanwhile, we've got this under our noses with some elites involved. That's why we all want to know what's happening here. This morning, we're with California Republican Party Chairwoman Jessica Milan Patterson. Go ahead, Jessica, jump in.
Hey, Senator, thanks for being with us. Can you talk a little bit about the transparency and the quickness for the Trump administration to move on these files that we've been asking for years now?
Yes, indeed. And Jessica, what we know is that there is a file the FBI has that is related to the trial. We know that there are IRS records, and we know that there is video footage from the Palm Beach residence. And over the last couple of years, I've been stymied, as you know, by Christopher Wray and the FBI, and they did not want to give this information forward. I tried to subpoena it in Judiciary Committee. I was the top Republican on the Human Rights Subcommittee. In that capacity, I worked on this issue for the past couple of years. And when I chose to bring forward my subpoena, all of a sudden, Chairman Durbin decided we were going to adjourn the committee, and we issued no subpoenas.
Wow.
And there has been that attempt to hide this. And I will say this, you know, people are curious about the list. To me, this is not about celebrity. This is about breaking apart a global human trafficking, sex trafficking ring that has cost the lives and endangered the lives of untold individuals, and bringing this forward, being able to break it apart and to shut it down, to hold these people to account for what they have done to these girls and these boys and these women. We have to get to the bottom of this. This is modern day slavery. It has to stop. I said I would not relent. I did not. We will start making this information public. I am grateful to AG Bondi and Director Patel for their tenacious work.
Senator, let me move on and get your take on this bill. You're proposing a bipartisan bill to boost U.S.-Taiwan travel. Tell us what.
Yes, indeed. And Maria, as you know, we have issues with China and the Chinese Communist Party. And one of the ways we can fight back against what they're doing is to encourage our businesses and our citizens. If you're looking at the Indo-Pacific, remember Taiwan. They are an ally. They consider themselves an independent country. They have a president, a cabinet, a military, and we should be there to support them and to support their fight against the Chinese Communist Party.
Well, I mean, I know that when an official delegation went to Taiwan, Michael McCall was the chairman of Foreign Affairs at the time. Taiwan flew, China flew planes and ships and sort of surrounded the island. I mean, should ordinary individuals, ordinary citizens feel safe going to Taiwan if you've got all of that China harassment?
They should feel safe going to Taiwan. And yes, indeed, when there are those of us that have gone into Taiwan, then China tries to beat their chest a little bit and get out there with what they think would be an intimidating show of force. But what we also know is that it bolsters Taiwan and their push for their independence to be recognized when we, in turn, recognize them.
Okay, we'll leave it there. We'll be watching your work, Senator. Great to have you this morning. Thank you.
Good.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and bring down inflammation and improve your immune system and your other bodily systems. such as your cardiovascular system. Now, this is the third pillar of a 4-pillar health core protocol. Take turmeric to bring down inflammation and soak up free radicals. The ashwagandha root will help to control your glucose levels and your cortisol levels. Bring those down and help bring down inflammation and help with your immune system and your cardiovascular system. This is a great stack to help boost up your immune system and lower the chances of building up further plaque, because to build up plaque, you need inflammation, you need LDL, you need LDL oxidized. So and you need free radicals. So, so you want to stop all those different pathways, cut off that whole process of plaque formation, stop the inflammation, lower the LDL, soak up the free radicals, right? Soak up those, prevent the calcium to deposit around these plaques. And what will happen is you're actually improving your cardiovascular health. Now, I do have a cardiovascular health box called the Longevity Cardiovascular box. So take those supplements, and you're really supercharging your cardiovascular health. You're reducing plaque formation, but not just that. Over time, you're actually slowly reducing the plaque that has already formed. But it's also with proper diet and exercise that you need to really allow this to work. So another supplement to take to bring down that inflammation is lignans. It's a powder. You take it, a small scoop a day, mix it with soft foods or with filtered water or a smoothie, whatever you want to take. But take it every day. It'll bring down inflammation and soak up free radicals. So this is a great stack as part of the health protocol, taking the lignans, taking the turmeric and the ashwagandha to bring down inflammation and to improve your cardiovascular health and your immune system. And if you work out, right, and you're an athlete, taking this stack will actually help to recover from your workout because it's bringing down that inflammatory response, all right? It's soaking up free radicals that you've produced during your workout. So this is beneficial for athletes, but also beneficial for individuals that just want to be healthy and improve their cardiovascular health and improve their immune system. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the ashwagandha root, the turmeric, and the lignans, take them together for max benefit. And I also have a box called the Longevity Cardiovascular box. And, take those supplements, and what will happen is you're improving your cardiovascular health. But it's not just taking supplements. Just make sure that you're doing everything else. It's a holistic approach. And that holistic approach is proper diet, proper exercise, proper supplementation, proper sleep. You have to do weight training, cardio, stretching, and balancing exercises. Learn new things, read, write, and talk to people in the real world, and proper sleep. And when you do that holistically on a daily basis, you're slowing the aging process and you're improving your immune system and your overall health and your longevity and your vitality. So please pay attention. It's a holistic approach. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the ashwagandha to bring down your cortisol levels and your blood glucose levels, turmeric to bring down inflammation and soak up free radicals, and lignans to bring down inflammation and to soak up free radicals. This is a very powerful stack. Go to my store, use discount 5, and you'll get $5 off. It's discount in all caps, discount number 5. You get $5 off any order.
For the Trump administration rely on the United States. Donald Trump has made that very clear. And to Chapin's point, that is his reading of what at least half of the American public wants. But what that means long term is Europe building its own defense industry. And that's why we're hearing people like the incoming Chancellor of Germany talk about extending France and Britain's nuclear umbrella to Germany. That's why Keir Starmer himself is looking to places like Norway, Poland, and others for a defense collaboration. We haven't seen anything like this since World War II. And if and when they start to build that, that will have long-term implications on the United States and our relationship with Europe.
All right, Jeannie Shanzino and Chief and Fay, our political panel today. Thank you both so much for joining us as we keep our eye on the White House here. Again, we are expecting, and we're getting it right now. In fact, it's being fed the tape playback of the more than 30 minutes or roughly 30 minutes comments that President Donald Trump and UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer made with reporters in the Oval Office. Let's listen to it now here on Bloomberg TV and radio.
So I look forward to it. And Mr. Prime Minister, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can I say thank you for your hospitality, for your leadership? We have met a number of times, we've talked a number of times, and we have had a very constructive conversation. I'm sure we will today. And of course, our countries have been bound together for a very long time now. The closest alliance, I think, of any two countries when it comes to prosperity and security. And I know that together we will strengthen that even further. And on issues like Ukraine, thank you for changing the conversation to bring about the possibility that now we can have a peace deal. And we want to work with you to make sure that peace deal is enduring, that it lasts, that it's a deal that goes down as a historic deal that nobody breaches. And we'll work with you to make sure that that absolutely happens. And it is my pleasure to bring from His Majesty the King a letter. He sends his best wishes and his regards, of course, but he also asked me to bear this letter and bring it to you. So can I present the letter from the King?
Thank you very much. Am I supposed to read it right now?
Yeah, please do.
I will do.
I've got to tell him what your reaction is. So I need to know.
He's a great gentleman. A great gentleman. Oh, that's fun. Well, that is really nice. I must make sure his signature's on that. So otherwise, it's not quite as meaningful. It is, and that's quite a signature. It's beautiful. He's a beautiful man, a wonderful man, and we appreciate it. I've known him, gotten to know him very well, actually. First term and now second term. Perhaps you'd like to say what that very important paragraph.
Yes, so this is a letter from His Majesty the King. It's an invitation for a second state visit. This is really special. This has never happened before. This is unprecedented. And I think that just symbolises the strength of the relationship between us. So this is a very special letter. I think the last state visit was a tremendous success. His Majesty the King wants to make this even better than that. So this is truly historic, an unprecedented second state visit. He wants to talk that through with you.
And that says at Windsor. That's
yes.
Something.
Yes. What I haven't got yet is your answer.
Yeah.
I do need to.
The answer is yes. We have our wonderful First Lady, Melania, and myself. The answer is yes, and we look forward to being there and honoring the King and honoring really your country. Your country is a fantastic country, and it'll be our honor to be there. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. President. I shall happily take that back to His Majesty. Thank you.
Keep that one.
Yeah, keep that one.
President Trump, Andrew and Tristan Tate landed in Florida today on a private jet after being released from custody in Romania. They are accused rapists, human traffickers, not thought of as good people in many circles. Did your administration pressure the Romanian government to release them? And if so,
I know nothing about that. I don't know. You're saying he's on a plane right now? Yeah, I just know nothing about it. We'll check it out. We'll let you know.
Obviously, this involves, there's an English element here, so obviously it's important that justice is done, and human trafficking is obviously, to my mind, a security risk. And so we'll catch up with the story. And you're aware? Are you aware?
I didn't know anything about it.
30% of the federal workforce
Are you tracking how many veterans have been fired so far?
Yes, we are. We are, and we take good care of our veterans, so we're watching that very carefully, and we hope it's going to be as small a number as possible. But we are having great success in slimming down our government. It's been really very successful, and some took payouts and buyouts, and others took other things, and some people we're finding out don't even exist. We're finding that we have a lot of people that don't exist, that people thought that did. We will be making a statement of that, but we're taking care of our veterans. We love our veterans. We're going to take good care of them.
Mr. President, could you be persuaded as part of a peace settlement in Ukraine to provide air cover, a backstop security position to the contributions that Europe might make as well?
Well, so President Zelensky's coming to see me on Friday morning, and we're going to be signing really a very important agreement for both sides because it's really going to get us into that country. We'll be working there. We'll have a lot of people working there. And so in that sense, it's very good. It's a backstop, you could say. I don't think anybody's going to play around if we're there with a lot of workers and having to do with rare earths and other things, which we need for our country. And we appreciate it very much. And I look forward to seeing him. We'll be talking about it, and we'll also be talking about that today with the Prime Minister.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, we've already indicated.
We're all involved, every one of us, and a lot more. But I think we're very well advanced on the deal, but we have not made a deal yet. So I don't like to talk about peacekeeping until we have a deal. I like to get things done. I don't want to give it the bad luck sign. We don't want to do that, but we've had very good talks with Russia. We've had very good talks, as you know, with Ukraine. Yes, sir.
Mr. President, does the Prime Minister have to choose a closer relationship with the EU as he is seeking and a good trade relationship with you? Which one would you go for?
Well, I think we have just a great relationship. We actually had a good relationship before. We've met a couple of times, and I'm very impressed with him and very impressed with his wife. I must say, she's a beautiful, great woman. And I said, you're very lucky. He's very lucky. And no, we've had a very good relationship.
You worry about Britain potentially undoing some of the benefits of Brexit by seeking a closer tie with the EU, who you said was set up?
No, I don't worry about that. I thought, frankly, what they did was the right thing at the time. I think that'll probably prove out over the centuries. They have a long time to go. But I think I predicted that was going to happen, and it did happen. And it'll work itself out. I think it's already worked itself out.
Keir Starmer has signed a deal to give away the table silence to Mauritius. Will you approve that deal?
Well, we're going to have some discussions about that very soon, and I have a feeling it's going to work out very well. They're talking about a very long-term, powerful lease, a very strong lease, about 140 years, actually. That's a long time. And I think we'll be inclined to go along with your country. Yeah, I think it's a little bit early. We have to be given the details, but it doesn't sound bad. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, you obviously can do business with our Prime Minister, Keir Starmer. You said yesterday that the EU was constructed to screw the US when it comes to trade. What can our Prime Minister say to you to persuade you not to impose tariffs on the United Kingdom?
Yeah, did I use the word that you said, that bad word? Well, I think that the EU, I've had problems with the EU because, and we're not talking about, we happen to have a great relationship with you, but we do have problems with the EU because they've tariffed us. They do it in the form of a VAT tax, which is about 20%, and many other taxes. They sue our companies. They sued Apple, got $16 or $17 billion. Which was, I think, totally a ridiculous decision. And they're suing Google for a lot of money. They're suing a lot of other companies. And we don't like the way they're treating our people now. We don't like the way they're treating our companies. They sell us cars. We don't sell them cars. They don't take our cars. They don't take much of our agriculture. And we have a deficit with them of about $350 billion. So I wouldn't say it's been such a great relationship personally, but other people did because it's politically correct to say that it's been good, but it hasn't been good. And we're going to change that. And we are going to have reciprocal tariffs. We're not going to have tariffs. We're going to have reciprocal. Whatever they charge us, we're going to charge them, which for many years foolishly. I would have done that, but then all of a sudden we had COVID and we had other things to think about. So it took me a little while to get that on, but we had, in my first 4 years, we had the greatest economy in the history of, I think, the world, but certainly in the history of our country. I think we're going to have that again, but the EU was very, very tough on us from the standpoint of trade. Then you could take it a step further and go into NATO, and that was a very tough situation for us. I mean, that's been a very tough situation because we were paying a disproportionate share, and it wasn't good. So, as you know, they paid hundreds of billions of dollars after I got involved, and they evened it out a little bit, but not very much. And then if you look at the war, we're in for $300 billion plus, and they're in for $100 billion. They get their money back, and now we'll get our money back also. But under Biden, you wouldn't have done that. Biden did a terrible job, I have to say. I hate to say that about somebody that sat here just before me, but he did a terrible, terrible job. That war should have never happened, the war between Russia and Ukraine. Frankly, October 7th should have never happened. Israel, that should have never happened. What happened there should have never. Inflation should have never happened. Afghanistan should have never happened. The way they got out, not getting out, but the way they got out. So, but I can say that as far as we're here for a different reason, we're talking about a very different place. And this is some place that I have investments there. I own Turnberry, I own Aberdeen, and I own a great place called Doonbeg in Ireland. So, you know, I have a great warm spot for your country.
And our trade obviously is fair, balanced, and that you've got a bit of surplus. So we're in a different position there. And obviously we contributed hugely in relation to Ukraine, and taken together with Europe, that's about 50%.
It'll work, yeah. It'll work. It's gonna work.
Okay, so does that mean there won't be any sanctions on the UK?
We'll have to take a look. I mean, we're going to have a good discussion today, and we have some very talented people on the other side, and we have some people that probably aren't as talented as them, but they're pretty good. Marco, what do you think? Our people are doing that. And we're going to have a good discussion, and we'll be talking about
Mr. Starmer, the Prime Minister, has said that he believes that Vladimir Putin would be at risk of invading Ukraine again without a sufficient backstop. Do you think that Vladimir Putin would be likely to invade again and prevent peace?
I don't think so. I think when we have a deal, it's going to be the deal. I don't think if I didn't win the election, I don't think we'd be even talking to Putin right now or anybody else. I think it would just, you know, I don't know if you're looking at the stats, but thousands of people are being killed a week, soldiers mostly, because the towns have been destroyed. There's thousands of soldiers. This was a very bad week, by the way. I get the stats. And you're talking about a human life. Number one, I want to see that. And it doesn't involve American soldiers, but it's Russian and Ukrainian soldiers. And I think I'm speaking for both. Number one, we want to see that stop. And number two, I want to stop paying the kind of money that we're talking about. You know, we're helping, and we're helping NATO, but we're helping a lot more than anybody else by far. And I want that to stop also.
Thank you, sir. You talked about trade tariffs this morning on your side. Just a question about China. 10% tariffs has already been implemented on China. Are you planning to do
additional 10 above?
This will be an additional 10 above. And is there, from the talks with Canada and Mexico so far, are you not seeing the progress that you wanted in order?
I don't see it at all. No, not on drugs. We've done a great job. If you look at Tom Homan, he's been incredible, and Christie, they've done a great job in terms of the border. But the drugs continue to pour into our country, killing hundreds of thousands of people. We're losing substantially more than 100,000 people. I mean, dead. They're dead. The families are destroyed after that happens. So it's, you know, it's not just that. That's the ultimate. But the families are absolutely destroyed. The drugs come in through Mexico. They come, a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them come from China. And that's why we did that. It's 10 plus 10. Okay, was there confusion on that?
There was. Yeah.
Okay, 10 plus 10. It's a second 10. And I think you're going to see, eventually you're going to see drugs stopping, because the country should not be allowing those drugs to come into the United States of America. And we're not going to allow it to happen. So that goes on the 4th of March. And then on the 2nd of April, we have reciprocal tariffs. That's reciprocal, where we charge countries what they're charging us, and nobody should have a problem with that. We have reciprocity. It's reciprocity. It's something that I think everybody I've spoken to said that's fair, and it is. If somebody charges us 25%, we charge them 25. If somebody charges us 10 or 15 or 30 or 70, we charge them an exact like amount. And it's pretty simple, but it's reciprocal tariffs because the United States has been taken advantage of by many, many different countries, including our friends, friend and foe. And in many cases, our friends took bigger advantage of that. When you talk about the EU, we're talking about the EU. The EU has been really very bad to us in terms of trade. And I'm a different kind of a president. I can't let that happen. Thank you. Yeah, please, ma'am, go ahead.
What would you be willing to do if Vladimir Putin did not stick to the terms of any deal on Ukraine?
If he not what?
He did not stick to the terms of any deal on Ukraine, because he's a history of not sticking to his word when it comes to international agreements.
I think he'll keep his word. I think I've spoken to him. I've known him for a long time now. Well, we had to go through the Russian hoax together. That was not a good thing. It's not fair. That was a rigged deal and had nothing to do with Russia. It was a rigged deal with inside the country. And they had to put up with that too. They put up with a lot. It wasn't just us. They had to put up with it, with a phony story that was made up. I've known him for a long time now, and I think he will. I don't believe he's going to violate his word. I don't think he'll be back when we make a deal. I think the deal is going to hold. Now they're going to have security. You're going to have security. You're going to have soldiers. I know France wants to be there. He's the president has said he wants to have soldiers there. I don't think we're going to even be necessary, but I don't think there'll be any problem with keeping the deal with the security.
You want to say something? No, I was just going to say, I mean, the deal, if we get it, is going to be hugely important. I don't think it would have happened if the space hadn't been created for it by yourself. But if there's a deal in, we've got to make sure it's a deal that lasts, that is not temporary, that lasts. And that's why we need to make sure that it's secure. And we've lent in and said we'll play our part. And we've talked and we will talk about how we work with yourself, Mr. President, to ensure that this deal is something which is not violated. It's very important. If there is a deal, we keep it.
And that will be, and I think I can say that will be the easy part. That's the part we look forward to, because putting security there, that's the part we all look forward to. That's easy. The difficult part is getting the deal made. So, but I think we've come a long way. Did you have something? He's got such a nice face. No, he's smiling. But watch, you'll ask a total killer. Yeah, the ones that get you. He looks like a nice guy.
Personal level, Mr. President, what do you get on most? What's your common ground with Sir Keir Starmer? Because you're both from different political backgrounds.
It's true. I think I can say this because we've known each other now really for a little while. This is not our first meeting, as you know. He loves his country, and so do I. That's our common theme. He loves his country, and I love our country. And we also have two countries that have gotten along for the longest period of time. Number one ally on each side, and we have good France, Australia. We have a lot of good ones, but we've had a long time relationship. A long time, hundreds of years. And we like each other, frankly, and we like each other's country, and we love our country. And I think that's our common thread.
On tariffs, you just said China.
Who you with?
I'm with the Independent. That's good. It's on tariffs. You just said that China. We charge them. We charge them as we charge China, but the tariffs are paid mostly by American importers and consumers.
No, they're not. No, I think they're paid for by the country. But you know, look, we can get into that. I put a lot of tariffs on in my first term, and we made tremendous amounts of progress because of those tariffs. China paid us hundreds of billions of dollars, billions. We never had because they took advantage. And President Xi's a friend of mine, but he knows better than anybody. He took advantage of our country. He took advantage of presidents that didn't know what they were doing. And they expect them. They actually expect them. The smart countries expect them from me because they know me and they know our country. But they got away with murder for decades, and we just can't let that happen anymore. Behind you, please.
It sounds as though one of you completely trusts President Putin and one of you doesn't trust him an inch. Have I got that right? And why do you trust him?
Look, it's trust and verify, let's call it that. And I think we both can be that way. You have to verify because you never know what's going to happen. I know a lot of people that you would say no chance that they would ever deceive you. And they're the worst people in the world. I know others that you would guarantee they would deceive you. And you know what? They're 100% honorable. So you never know what you're getting. No, I have confidence that if we make a deal, it's going to hold.
Mr. President, on fentanyl, Mr. President, less than 1% of all fentanyl that comes into the U.S. is apprehended at the Canadian border. So why use fentanyl as a reason?
Because they should be apprehending much more. They're only apprehending 1%. You're right about that. It's a little more than that. But they should be apprehending much more because a lot comes through Canada. And as Mexico gets stronger in terms of the border, it goes up to Canada. And a lot of drugs are coming in through Canada. We can't have that.
Mr. President,
Yeah, go ahead, please.
is there anything you can say tomorrow to President Zelensky to reassure him that his country's war hasn't been in vain and its sovereignty is not going to be threatened by any deal with Russia?
Well, he's coming. Perhaps he's already on his way. And we're going to be signing the deal together, probably in front of the media. And we're going to be having a good conversation. No, we want to work with him, President Zelensky, she said before. We want to work with him and we will work with him. I think the president and I actually have had a very good relationship. It maybe got a little bit testy because we wanted to have a little bit of what the European nations said. They get their money back by giving money. We don't get the money back. Biden made a deal, he put in $350 billion. And I thought it was a very unfair situation.
We're not getting all of ours. I mean, quite a bit of ours was gifted. It was given. There were some loans, but mainly it was gifted actually.
Mr. President, the Europeans want Ukraine to be part of NATO as part of this deal. Are you willing to budge on that at all, or is it a further?
Well, I could be very nice and say, oh, well, we'll work to it. But it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. That's what started this whole thing. And Biden said that, and all of a sudden the gun started. That was one of the primary reasons this started. And this was long before President Putin. They never said it was an impossibility. So we can say, oh, gee, well, we'll try. But that's something that's just not going to happen. And then the other question I ask is about the land. Will you get your land back? Well, they fought long and hard on the land, and you and I will be discussing that. And we're going to certainly try and get as much as we can back. But on the NATO, it's just not, that's not going to happen. Yeah,
Mr. President, you talked about having common ground with Keir Starmer, but there are things you disagree on as well. You described Zelensky as a dictator. You described President Putin as a dictator. Do you see that as a problem?
The relationship between President Zelensky and President Putin is not a good one. You've noticed, right? It's not a good one. It's not a good relationship. And we'll have to try and work something out. Sometimes that happens. I get along with both. I have a very good relationship with President Putin. I think I have a very good relationship with President Zelensky. And now we're doing the deal, and we're going to be in there. We're going to be actually in there, digging our hearts out. And hopefully, we need the rare earth, and we have some here, but we don't have enough. Our economy is very strong, and we need a lot of things that in some cases we don't have here. So I think we're going to have a very good relationship, but the relationship between them is not the best. Did I say that? I can't believe I said that. Next question. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, so quick point in financial times. Do you see any situation where US forces could be deployed as a backstop in a peaceful operation in direct confrontation with Russian forces?
Well, there is a backstop thing. First you're gonna have European countries because they're right there. We're very far away. We have an ocean between us. But we want to make sure it works. So I don't know when you say backstop, you mean a backstop psychologically or militarily or what? But we are a backstop because we'll be over there. We'll be working in the country. We're going to be, that's a great thing economically for them because, when you talk about economic development, we're going to have a lot of people over there. So we'll be working in the country. So I just don't think you're gonna have a problem. I think when we have an agreement, you can say whatever you want about security, who's gonna do it or on, and that's gonna be a very pleasant conversation. The hard conversation is, will we have an agreement? And I think the answer is yes. I think Russia will agree, and I think that, I really believe Ukraine will agree also.
So when you talk about this as well, just to follow up on that, if British troops are in Ukraine keeping the peace and get attacked by Russia, will you come to their aid?
If the British people are in Ukraine and they get attacked, you know, I've always found about the British, they don't need much help. They can take care of themselves very well. You know what? No, it sounds like it's evasive, but it's not evasive. You know, the British have been incredible soldiers, incredible military, and they can take care of themselves. But if they need help, I'll always be with the British, okay? I'll always be with them. But they don't need help. You look at their career, you have done very well over the years, haven't you?
We have, I'm very proud of my country. And but we've also always been there backing each other up between our two countries. That is why this is the greatest alliance for prosperity and security I think the world has ever seen. Whenever necessary, we absolutely backed each other up, and that's.
Could you take on Russia by yourselves?
Well.
All right, one or two more. Yes, sir.
In his remarks at the Munich Security Conference, Vice President Vance condemned free speech violations in the UK. Particularly, could you respond? What is your message?
I have an idea. We have the man right here. Come on. Let's go, JD. Let's put you on stage.
Great. Yeah, look, I said what I said, which is that we do have, of course, a special relationship with our friends in the UK and also with some of our European allies. But we also know that there have been infringements on free speech that actually affect not just the British. Of course, what the British do in their own country is up to them, but also affect American technology companies and by extension, American citizens. So that is something that we'll talk about today at lunch.
We've had free speech for a very, very long time in the United Kingdom, and it will last for a very, very long time. But no, I mean, certainly we wouldn't want to reach across US citizens, and we don't, and that's absolutely right. But in relation to free speech in the UK, I'm very proud of our history there.
We've been discussing all this with the Australians and the Brits. We'll be discussing AUKUS with the Prime Minister's son.
What does that mean?
AUKUS, the Australia-US defence line.
So we'll be discussing that. We've had another great relationship, and you have too, with Australia.
Yeah.
We've had a very good relationship with Australia.
Mr. President, while we have a Vice President here, are you both disappointed that the AfD didn't come first in the German elections, given your previous support for them?
No, whatever happens with Germany, look, the relationship has been very strong with Germany, but we'll have to see what happens. They have a lot of things going on right now. We'll have to see. No, I'm not disappointed about anything. If anything, you would say that the group that we would be most opposed to lost, and but we got along with them also. We have a very good relationship with all groups in Germany.
CEO Eric Prince was on our channel News Nation. He was talking about his proposal to use private forces to assist in deportations. Have you read that proposal and do you support it?
No, I haven't seen it. I don't think it's necessary. Our people are doing a phenomenal job. I wouldn't be opposed to it necessarily, but I'd go to our military people and I'd go to Tom Holman and Christie. I'd go to the various and ask, but I don't see it as being. We're doing unbelievably in getting people out, getting criminals out, people that should have never been here, that the Biden administration with their stupid open border should have never allowed. They came in from prisons and jails and mental institutions, and gang members and drug dealers coming into our country like this. We're getting them out and we're doing really well. I mean, the level of effectiveness has been incredible. Everybody's talking about it. How about one more?
Mr. President,
Well, not you best.
Mr. President, one in the Middle East.
Go ahead. You look so good. Here we go. Give it a go.
are there areas specifically of Ukraine that you're talking about, if giving back specifically Crimea? Have you gotten to those details yet on such a thing?
Well, you mean the areas that were taken?
Yeah.
There are a lot of areas that were taken. Yeah, we've talked about it. A lot of the sea line has been taken. And we'll be talking about that. And we're going to see if we can get it back. We'll get a lot of it back for Ukraine if that's possible. We'll be seeing about that. Okay? Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chris. We're headed out.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, everybody, you have been listening and watching President Trump, and you can
It is a very special next 4 years to be able to watch Trump and just him just free flowing in the Oval Office with the press. We will never see this again the rest of our life. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the vitamin D3 and the K2. Stack them together. They work great as a cardiovascular stack, but also for a bone stack, for a bone health stack. Take calcium and do resistance training. Take the D3 and the K2, MK7 molecule. Take those together. And by doing that resistance training and taking in that calcium, what you're going to have is you're going to build stronger bones. Your bone density will improve. So please go to the store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, stack the D3 and the K2 together. But this will also help with your cardiovascular health because it's going to reduce the calcium depositing around plaque. Now, to improve the cardiovascular health even more, take nattokinase, and this reduces clots because it breaks up clots because it's fibrinolytic. But also nattokinase helps to bring down LDL levels and increase your HDL levels. So your total cholesterol is going to be better. So if you are improving your total cholesterol and you're reducing the actual calcium depositing, then you're reducing plaque formation. So this is a great stack for cardiovascular. And the added benefit is that if you're doing resistance training and taking in calcium, you're going to be depositing that into your bones and strengthening those bones. That's very important as you get older for males and females, but especially for females that are postmenopausal. Because if you don't put some resistance training on your bones are becoming brittle. So please pay attention. It's a holistic approach. You can improve your bone health and your cardiovascular health at the same time. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the D3, the K2, and the nattokinase. It's a great stack. I have a longevity box called the Longevity Cardiovascular Health Box. Take that, and it has all the supplements you need to reduce plaque formation and to reduce the chances of additional plaque formation. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. I also have Longevity Box Bone Health, where you get the collagen, the D3, and the K2. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the separate supplements or the longevity or anti-aging boxes.
Are a bit different right now. Donald Trump, as we just heard, is expecting this is going to be a signing. President Zelensky has characterized this more as negotiations, suggesting that things aren't fully ironed out. So we need more clarity on that as well.
Although the President Trump said, we will try to get as much land back for Ukraine. So the devil always in the details, and we'll see what ultimately happens Friday. Kelly, thank you so much. Kelly's going to be back at 5 p.m. Wall Street time on Balance of Power, along with Joe Matthews. She is one of the co-hosts. All right, welcome everybody. It is Bloomberg Business Week for this Thursday, February 27th. Carol Master along with Tim Stanovic. Let's get to the setup for us on this Thursday. News coming out of DC, Tim, but also stocks seem to be kind of just a little bit of a churn here.
Yeah, kind of looking for direction. The S&P 500 going between gains and losses throughout the day, down about 0.1%. The Nasdaq down about 0.8%. Blame the mixed economic data, the tariff angst, the sell-off in the market's influential mega caps. We're going to be talking about all that in just a minute.
It's a full basket. All right, over the next hour, though, 60 minutes, we're going to get into Nvidia failing to impress. We're also going to get into U.S. economic growth, which actually seems to continue to impress and outperform.
Plus, Amazon CEO Andy Jassy on the new Alexa chip curve and speaking to President Trump.
All right, we're also going to get into the disastrous buyout that exposes the fuzzy math in private equity deals. It is the Bloomberg Big Take. First up, let's get to the trade that Tim laid out. Let's head on over to Charlie Pellet. Hey, Charlie.
Hi, thank you very much. Here's what's going on. The single stock you do want to know about Nvidia. Let's begin there because Nvidia shares now down by 4.1% after last night's earnings report. Dow Industrials, though, pushing higher. The Dow up by 221 points, up 0.5%. S&P 500 index down 9, now down 0.2%. The Nasdaq Composite index lower by 0.8%. 10-year 4.29%. The 2-year 4.09%. Gold down 1%, 28.86 the ounce. And West Texas Intermediate crude up 2.4%, 70.29 a barrel. So again, recapping, Nvidia down 4.4%, S&P down 0.2%. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, Charlie, thank you so much. Charlie watching, talking about this a lot today. Nvidia kicking off trading today at the open with a nearly 3% rally, only to see it run out of steam. The stock right now down more than 4%. The chip maker is at the center of the AI spending boom. Delivered good but not great quarterly numbers, disappointing investors accustomed to blowout results. Company also, Tim, warning that gross profit margins would be tighter than anticipated as it rushes to roll out a new chip design called Blackwell. It's something we talk about a lot with our own man, DeepSeek.
We were all over the results last night, but we did want to follow up, especially as we've seen Nvidia shares trade all over the map since the company reported. Our go-to, Ian King, he's U.S. semiconductor and networking reporter for Bloomberg News. He joins us from our San Francisco bureau. Ian, Nvidia is still selling a lot of stuff. Is the disappointment playing out in the share price today about the lofty expectations that are still out there? Because we saw shares rally at first.
Yeah, I mean, this is by any other company in the sector's standards, a fantastic report, and it's kind of where they would love to be. But by Nvidia standards, it's kind of great, but not fantastic, right? I mean, we're on a quarterly revenue run rate that was an annual run rate just a couple of years ago. So not a lot to complain about in terms of the numbers, other than to say that they're not as fantastically high increments as they used to be.
I mean, CE's first quarter revenue, $43 billion, as you say, Ian, by any other metric, or any other, kind of read. They do say plus or minus 2%, but get into a little bit more of their expectations with this one. And I do wonder, as a company in this AI cycle, is this kind of an expected lull or slowing of growth and maybe more pressure on margins, especially when so much of your business is in the handful of a few companies, big hyperscalers? One would expect that they get some deals on buying all of those chips.
Yeah, I mean, you're pointing out a few of the key concerns that investors have, and there are others. And those were certainly brought into focus coming into this earnings report. But it was like, Denton Wang, the CEO, and his CFO, Colette Kress, had done their homework, and they basically shot down everything that people were worried about as part of their presentation. You saw the stock trade up, actually, after hours yesterday, and everybody was happy for a while. There's the ongoing concern about margins, but again, they were like, oh, no, it's going to be okay eventually, don't worry about that. So there was really nothing to seize upon on a fundamental basis here. It's more a case of we're used to 1 billion, 2 billion blowouts, and we didn't get that.
What about concern being put to rest when it comes to DeepSeek? This was the first report that we got from Nvidia since the DeepSeek mania kind of sent the stock lower. In fact, Nvidia not even recovering to where it was before that news came out. Ian, did it put investor concern to rest there?
Yeah, I mean, this was a classic performance by the CEO where, the concern is, we're going to move to cheaper gear. We're going to move to, we won't need the high-end stuff that Nvidia produces perhaps as much. And he flipped the script and said, look, what DeepSeek does is, it creates this enthusiasm and this flowering and this spreading of use of AI. And guess what? Our chips are the best of that. And he gave this elaborate technical explanation, as he tends to do, and sort of put that one, back in the box, and I think did what was a well-received explanation in dealing with that and arguing, well, hey, this actually helps us rather than hurts us.
What about in terms of how, this too, right? We were all talking about as we waited for the call, like what words would he use to describe the type of demand that's out there? He said we will grow strongly in 2025. Demand for Blackwell is amazing. Like, was there any tea leaves or anything that for someone who really parses and goes through everything, that would get out of this company? Was there anything that you detected that said, oh, maybe this is, a different word, a different indication of maybe what demand is or what the business is right now?
Yeah, I mean, the way I think that he addressed that was to say, look, I'm happier now than I was 3 months ago. That's the answer to your question. You know, people were picking away at what he'd said which adjective was he using and how did that compare to what he'd previously used. But he sort of said, look, no, I'm happier than I was.
A last thought about Nvidia earnings, because I do want to get to something else, Ian, that I know is on your radar. Ian, I don't know if we lost you. Okay,
you're back now.
Okay, I will get to that last thought then.
We thought you were just like ghosting us for a moment.
The last thought is to wrap up Nvidia earnings, because there's something else that I know is on your radar that I want to talk about.
I'm sorry, you've gone again.
Okay, let's wrap up Ian. And big thank you to Ian King. He's Bloomberg News semiconductor and networking reporter, joining us out there in our San Francisco bureau. It is the epicenter of technology, but sometimes, Carol, the tech doesn't work.
Yeah, listen, hey, welcome to our world. Sometimes this happens. We did want to point out, though, that there is a great story by Ian and Matt Day on the Bloomberg about Microsoft, Amazon, and Nvidia urging President Trump to revise the chip export curve, something that we know has been playing out this week and something we continue to watch, and certainly Ian does. So we'll keep an idea. I mean, keep in mind, these companies, mega big players, a market valuation of over $8 trillion, talking to the president and his administration about this.
Yeah, check this one out on the Bloomberg terminal, because Ian and Matt write that in rapid succession today, Microsoft's president and Amazon's CEO both said that the Trump team should reconsider Biden-era regulations that would cap the export of AI semis to nations including Israel, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE.
I gotta say, this is really important, and it ties together some of the economic watch that we've been on. I mean, listen to this, everybody. Almost 60% of U.S. adults expect President Trump's tariffs will lead to higher prices. This is according to a Harris poll conducted for Bloomberg News. Some 44% say the levies are likely to be bad for the U.S. economy. That compared to 31% who said they'd be a boost. So let's tie it all together. We've got some thoughts on higher prices, inflation, U.S. economic growth. With us in studios, Bloomberg News economics editor Molly Smith joining us right now. Hey, a lot to get to and a lot to tie together. First of all, I do want to start with the backdrop, backward looking, but GDP today. Good news once again in terms of U.S. economic growth.
Yeah, we weren't expecting too many revisions out of this. So what we got today was the second estimate that the government puts out on fourth quarter GDP. So we'll even get another one. So just in case
this is a boring one, I feel like.
Yeah, and I mean, look, you never know.
Yeah,
sometimes there could be something interesting. I mean, in the next one, we'll actually get our first look at corporate profits and gross domestic income in the period, which a lot of people like to look at those metrics more. But if you're looking at, the basics of GDP, consumer spending, and inflation, actually, that was really more where the big surprise was in this, was that the underlying measure of inflation, this is the PCE measure, that one actually rose more quickly at the end of 2024 than was initially reported. So definitely adds to the idea of what we're going to talk about, I think, in your next question, perhaps, of where inflation is going and why it's still heating up again. Here we are in almost March,
right?
And at the end of 2024, it was still bad news.
Yeah, that's exactly where we're going, because tomorrow, big economic news, of course, we get the Fed's preferred inflation gauge. We get the sense from a lot of people, including you, that the conversation is now shifted to inflation being more sticky, or sticking around longer.
Yeah, the thing is that we've all been waiting for really. Shelter is such a huge part of this story for housing costs to come down, and because that obviously is such a huge expense for really all American households. And that is where some of the most persistent strength has been, and especially when you're looking at the core measures that exclude food and energy. But hey, it's not like we're excluding food out of our everyday lives. Groceries are expensive. Obviously, right. Eggs are a huge part of that story right now. Broader grocery prices, not as quite as actionable as what's going on in the egg world with bird flu, but it's still just generally, you're not really getting as much deflationary or disinflationary sources in the broader scope of goods and services.
Why is it still so sticky? I get the egg thing. We understand.
Yes.
And there's just different stories. We all come in with our stories about not being able to get eggs or how expensive they are. So why, though, overall, is housing just because it's going to take a while? Like things like that kind of stay, you sign a lease, you buy a home, like some of this stuff.
Housing is a very structural story, and that there's just even if we are able to, get, let's say, like rent growth really does come down and that prices are maybe better under control for whatever reason. Let's say your landlord is just kind and does not raise your rent by as much. There still is a structural shortage of housing in this country in so many areas. And there's actually a great story today out of our Texas Bureau about what's happening in Austin. Now there's this huge, a boom in construction in there and how that's really finally led some rent measures to really come down. And it really is a supply and demand story though across the economy that, housing is really, of course, the most pressured source of this. And with housing too, in particular, just because of how home prices and, migration patterns have pushed housing prices up over the years, just looking at when we look at these different buckets of home prices and when you're looking at ones that are maybe in the 1 to 200,000 range, 2 to 4, and it's there just really aren't that many houses, really, no matter where in the country you are, that are priced at that level anymore. Maybe those homes used to be in those buckets, but everything's just kind of shifted up. And that's really in housing the problem. It is all just really shifted higher, and it's hard to see without just a really big boom in construction how that gets reversed.
That's not a problem the Fed can solve.
No, they
That's
can't
the
build
challenge.
houses.
And Jay Powell's talked about that.
Yes.
He's talked about that a lot over the last few years. So is there a chance that the next Fed move could be a move higher?
I think if that were to happen, there definitely is some betting activity on that. I don't know if that's necessarily a 2025 event, but that would be, there have to be some really more marked turns in what's happening in the inflation picture right now. The thing is that Fed officials still believe that inflation is on a downward trajectory. They of course acknowledge that right now it's been stalling out for several months and that this is not what they would like to be seeing, but I don't think the way that they're speaking about it, they are not getting the sense that inflation is generally reversing progress. But that is, I think, right now the idea is that is in danger of happening.
Yeah, it's just kind of interesting because I think about it, if interest rates come down, people can buy houses, then there's still more demand for things, and then that puts pressure on, goods and it just feels like we're in this really kind of rough little cycle right now.
It's just hard to see where disinflation
pressures
would come from next right now,
right?
Especially with tariffs on the horizon and what that will be meaning for the goods picture, because goods right now is compared to services, that's really more where disinflation has happened when you're just buying physical stuff. Services have generally been what's been more the persistent source of inflation, housing, of course, being part of that.
So if economic growth slows down, could we assume that inflation will come down, or that's not a guarantee?
Definitely not a guarantee.
Okay.
Because that's really more the big concern that I hear coming up more and more is seeing that stagflation word. I know I hate to say it on the air, it makes it kind of more real, but but I'm hearing definitely more of that.
All right, good stuff. Glad we could talk to you, and don't forget we've got that important inflation print right tomorrow morning.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the zeolite. This helps to detoxify your body from heavy metals, toxins, and chemicals. Make sure you filter your water. Make sure you reduce your exposure to processed foods and clean your environment around you, like your garage, in your basement. Make sure that these harmful chemicals are not in your presence, because these chemicals will disrupt your immune system and your endocrine system and make you older, right? For sure. So you want to detoxify that out of your body. Also, forever chemicals can be detoxified out of your body, but it takes a lot more effort. So zeolite you can take every day. Take 2 drops underneath your tongue, small drops. Drink filtered water. Do that every day throughout the year. Some people prefer to do a more intense detox once or twice a year. Take 4 to 5 drops underneath your tongue, small drops. Drink the filtered water every day until the bottle's done, and do that once or twice a year. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the heavy metals, toxins, and chemicals out of your body. Zeolite will bind to them, and it'll allow you to excrete them out through your urine in 6 to 8 hours. Please go to my store, get the zeolite, and detoxify your body daily. Myotrol is a great supplement to take to help build muscle and maintain muscle. When you get older, you start to atrophy. Myotrol will help with the gene expression to build muscle and to maintain muscle and improve your mitochondrial health. You can stack it with gladiator barley, and you do resistance training, and this is a great way to gain muscle. You can do this if you're an athlete or even if you're older, all right? And you just want to reverse the atrophy. This is a great stack. Please go to my store, get the Myotrol, get the Gladiator Barley. This is a high density protein. And you take about a half a scoop to a scoop a day. This is a great stack. But you can buy them separately. Myotrol will help with the gene expression to build muscle and to maintain muscle. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Myotrol, take it, do the resistance training, and build muscle. And lastly, collagen. Collagen is a great way to improve your bones, your joints, your ligaments, your tendons, your skin, your hair, your nails. It has an amino acid profile shown on the screen here. You can look at the label on my website. Take this high quality collagen, not the crap the cheaper crap that people get at the store. This is very high quality collagen. And you get a big scoop or take it once a day. You can mix it with soft foods like hummus and yogurt. Drink it with filtered water. And mix it with filtered water. Some people mix it with milk or a smoothie, but take it every day. And this will improve your joints and your bones, your skin, your hair, your nails. Do resistance training to strengthen those joints and to strengthen that musculature and help build up bone density. Like I said, taking collagen with D3 and K2 in my longevity bone box is a great way with resistance training to build bone density. So if you want to, help with that bone density, especially if you're postmenopausal, that's a great way to do it. All right. So take a look at that longevity bone box and take that every day and boom, do some resistance training and strengthen those bones. But take the collagen. It's a great dual purpose product. Helps your skin, helps your bones, helps your muscles. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Use discount 5 and get $5 off.
Here in the US is doing, just think about Stargate. This is what Sam Altman's been out there trying to say time and time again. Bring me the infrastructure. Interestingly, Amazon not part of Stargate, but ultimately they're still saying we're committing the money to be able to bring us these sorts of resources. And he thinks over the next few years, you'll see those ironed out in a power perspective. Can we play a little bit of the interview?
Yeah, because what I think is so interesting is I also asked him about what about the issues of selling chips outside of the US? Remember, we've got Nvidia limited to potentially China, but also its own allies, the so-called AI diffusion rule. Here's what we had to say about that.
I don't know how this administration feels about it, but I would say that we share the concern that it has limitations on certain countries who are natural allies of the US, who just to be able to do their business and those companies to be able to get done what they want to get done on top of these technology infrastructure platforms like AWS, they're going to need more chips. And so I think if we don't do it, we're going to basically give up that business.
So
there you have it, Andy Jassy.
Yeah.
Jinx.
Jinx. I mean, Jassy, you say that. Across in the 3 hours that you're together. Exactly. He's sort of saying that this AI diffusion rule was brought in very late in the day in the Biden administration, and actually the ripple effects are significant. Yeah. He's not too worried about his AWS part of the business thus far, but ultimately he thinks it's more of a US competitive edge here.
So what's Amazon doing to try to ease the concerns that investors have and that its own company has about capacity? Yesterday you talked about Trainia. What is Amazon doing?
Well, precisely. They are basically creating this flywheel that he likes to talk about. There's so many flywheels when it comes to Amazon, whether using Alexa Plus to be able to just use their content more or buy more stuff using Amazon. But when it comes to AWS part, look, they invest in chips that therefore allow compute that gets people on Bedrock building more, using models that they offer and building and curtailing their own models. Then they bring the applications and then more compute is necessary. So they still have this whole vertically integrated flywheel, but they do need
the investment behind that to ensure that more and more chips can get used. And he's saying more and more people will depend on training because they're more cost efficient.
But remind everybody Andy Jassy's background. I mean, this is in his DNA.
Yeah.
He's the AWS guy.
He is. He basically birthed AWS alongside, of course, Jeff Bezos, who is the founder of Amazon under that particular leadership. If you want to get talking quantum chips, AWS, you can do it for hours with Andy Jassy. He's also a massive sports lover, and he wants to be talking about the Rangers here in New York or the Giants. He obsesses about buffalo wings and where to get the best ones. He's doing eating competitions. The guy was born in Scarsdale, so like he knows New York, and that's what he's using Alexa Plus for. But he is really someone who's incredibly in the weeds when it comes to West.
Sorry.
Still from New York State.
No, I know.
And as someone who lives upstate, but yeah, they are really trying to talk about ultimately how they can alleviate some of the issues to help his profit business grow faster, because AWS has been the profit side of the business. The e-commerce, of course, is like the revenue side. So in terms of the chip export restrictions that President Trump and his administration are thinking about, as our Ian King and Matt Day report, Microsoft, Amazon, Nvidia urging the administration, right, to revise these export curbs. Did he give you any insight about whether he thinks it's going to happen? I mean, he's been, after the inauguration, he tweeted and congratulated President Trump.
Yeah, he's been in touch.
Does he feel like the administration is listening?
Yes.
and is open and understanding to what this might mean, certainly for American companies?
He's saying he is really buoyed and optimistic about how much this administration wants to work with business, wants to work with private and public coming together to understand the issues of business. He really was very optimistic about that.
What is it's interesting because you have Jeff Bezos on the other hand.
He was the one who's at the inauguration.
Exactly. Right? He was the one at the inauguration. He's the one at Washington Post making changes at the Washington Post. How do you view the relationship that these two guys, that this company has with Washington, as being crucial to its success?
I think it's a positive one. It's kind of the message Andy Jassy's giving. I think Andy Jassy's there making it clear. Like, yes, Jeff Bezos is up there at the inauguration doing, I mean, think about some of the work that's been done by the administration has been pretty positive for Amazon. De minimis. The idea that you are limiting the cost wins that some of these Chinese competitors like Shein had by getting in the parcels much cheaper, that's going to go. That's definitely in Amazon's favor, even though if it's going to knock the fact that they have third-party sellers who are indeed Chinese and some of their goods come that way. But this is not a net negative for Amazon more broadly, I think. So he's trying to get the message out there that he is speaking and they are listening. I mean, he's just off to DC.
Right? Do you think it's a better relationship than they had during the first Trump administration? It was a little rocky toward the end. There's this lawsuit about a government contract.
I think every company is totally thinking of this next administration in a different way. Just think about the relationship that Zuckerberg had with Trump 1.0 and what he does have now. I think everyone realizes that you need to be there, you need to be talking to them, and deals will get done. And they're willing to invest and make American exceptionalism live on. Just think about the quantum breakthrough. These are long-term bets that companies have to continue to reinvest in, and they have to get the talent from the US, and they have to get some of the overall technology from the US.
He sounds like he's really upbeat. And I think that Amazon's one of those companies, right? Great read on the consumer, great read on the AI trade and investment. Like, these are things that are so important to the market environment, to the overall economic environment. It sounds like he was pretty upbeat.
Yeah, I do feel that way. I don't think he's sweating out the issue that, are we about to have a peak investment cycle, that the AI euphoria is about to end. That is not his viewpoint. They are bringing generative AI into every single part of their business. And he said, look, yeah, there's going to be some people who are ultimately disillusioned, is the way he put it, about generative AI and about the run rate in which it affects all of our lives. But it is here to stay, and it is going to change the way in which we interact with his products and interact with his business more broadly. Remember, he's also, they're trying to make things ever more frugal, ever more efficient, and he's still having to strip out layers of people.
Hey, if we can get an AI agent to come and fix an oven, as he said, then that's a win. Maybe not doing your dishes yet.
Plumbing, electrical.
Yeah,
this is what I mean.
That's not happening yet.
It's not happening yet.
See, the bigger problem is why do we need to have computers to try to fix things because we don't understand how they work? See, the problem is that there's not enough engineers in our society. See, we have too many lawyers, too many finance people, too many people that are coders. We don't have people that actually know how stuff works, how to build stuff, how to make stuff. how to engineer stuff. It's because we have a society that's not very good at mathematics and creativity. That's the problem. It's too litigious of a society, too many people going into law and too many people going into finance. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the ubiquinol. Ubiquinol is the most bioavailable form of CoQ10 that you can buy. Ubiquinol soaks up free radicals because it's an antioxidant. Ubiquinol will help with your mitochondrial health, and ubiquinol will improve the health and protection of your neurons. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Take ubiquinol every day if you're 40 years old or older. You have to take this, all right? Protect your neurons. It's very, very, very important. NAD plus is something that I've added to my stack. This helps to boost up energy levels, detoxify your liver and your kidneys, and NAD plus helps to repair DNA damage, cellular DNA and mitochondrial DNA. So by boosting up those energy levels, protecting your neurons, and repairing DNA, this is a great supplement to take, and it stacks well with resveratrol, C60, ubiquinol. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the NAD+, very important. And since we've been talking about resveratrol is something that I've been taking for decades. It stacks really well with NAD+, ubiquinol, C60. It's an antioxidant, so it's going to soak up free radicals. It also helps with mitochondrial health, so it's going to boost up energy levels. And resveratrol helps to get rid of cells that are in senescence. Get rid of those cells that have a bunch of garbage. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get resveratrol. And guess what? Resveratrol will stack really well with these other supplements that I'm talking about that are antioxidants. So to get the max benefit of resveratrol, you should stack it with these other antioxidants. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, use discount 5, build up your own stack, and get healthy. Follow my lead, and I'm telling you how to combine these things in such a way to improve your health. All right. Let's go to CNN. They're talking about office workers being let go in the government.
They were given 15 minutes within a designated 1-hour window to pack their things and get out. This is happening hours after the Supreme Court gave the Trump administration a temporary victory and granted an emergency request to pause $2 billion in court-ordered payments to foreign aid contractors. CNN's Arlette Saenz is live in Washington, D.C., outside of USAID headquarters. What are you hearing as people have to go in and get their belongings in 15 minutes time?
Well, Sarah, it's really been an emotional moment for many of the staffers who are coming here today to collect their belongings at USAID. We have seen several federal workers who were either fired or placed on administrative leave coming to collect their belongings. As you mentioned, they have about a 15-minute window to pick up any items from their office that they want to take home with them. And we are outside of the headquarters right now, where, as you can see behind me, dozens of people have assembled to try to offer their support for those USAID workers who are now leaving their jobs. I spoke a few minutes ago with a young woman named Julianne Alford. She was participating in the Presidential Management Fellows here at USAID, which President Trump terminated just a few days ago. Here is how she described her experience throughout this process as she came here to pick up her belongings today.
It's been horrible. There's been like little to no communication with us. We're being treated terribly. I'm worried about overseas staff coming back. I've heard there's little to no communication with them. There's been no like offboarding with us. It's just been very sudden everything. One day being locked out of the building, the next being told you're on admin leave, things like that. It's been very difficult. So what was it like coming back here today? Heartbreaking. Walking in the building and seeing all the pictures of our projects that were taken down. Work like getting children vaccines or providing food aid, things that really matter. Being treated as if they're nothing. It's really hard to see.
And so that just provides one slice, one window, that provides one window into how so many of these federal workers who are being impacted by these cuts in agencies and also efforts to reduce the workforce, how they have been impacted. We know that just on Sunday, about 2,000 staffers with USAID were laid off, and many more were placed on administrative leave. This has really been a very uncertain period for so many federal workers in government at a time when the Trump administration has pledged to make cuts at agencies and also trying to reduce the workforce overall.
A lot of emotions there. USA, which has basically been dismantled. Arlette Science, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Mark, we're seeing some of the immediate impacts of the ruling and John Roberts kind of putting a stay on this. What is the ultimate impact of all this besides with Donald Trump?
Well, I think, first of all, USAID, I think, is gone as far as we've ever known it. Democrats have pretty much given up on trying to fight to get it back. It will end up in the courts, and it is in the courts. And we've seen even this emergency stay right now. Chief Justice John Roberts allowed the Trump folks more time based upon having to give out these contracts to USAID. I think this spells Trump because this is going to be the first step in really Donald Trump successfully dismantling the government. Now, everything that he does try to do, Sarah, is not going to be successful. But in this first step, he appears to be successful.
Yeah, this is another thing that we were all watching. Donald Trump giving a really strong endorsement to Elon Musk, who was at the first cabinet meeting, not a cabinet member, but he was at the meeting. Right. And I thought it was interesting that he was like, is anybody unhappy to the room, to his cabinet? And they all clapped. I think everyone's not only happy, they're ecstatic, they're thrilled, Donald Trump said to his cabinet. What do you make of all of this?
Well, you know what? Let's have the president himself. Let's hear what he had to say, because it's so interesting about, it says so much in such a little bit of period of time about what we're going to see over the next few weeks, next few months. Let's hear what he had to say.
And let the cabinet speak just for a second.
Unhappy later. If you are, well, throw them at it.
Look at them all just clapping and smiling and thinking to themselves, Sarah, we better get on board. You know, it's very interesting. Donald Trump not only issued directions through social media, he also issued his threat to his own people in public, and that's clearly what we saw yesterday.
It clearly is, and it did feel a tiny bit awkward, or a lot awkward, when he made some of those statements and sort of they had to respond to it. Meantime, we're seeing these town halls where people are really unhappy with some of what Elon Musk has done. All right, Mark Preston, it's always a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Okay.
And Johnson, just right off of that, Republican members of Congress are increasingly facing backlash over Elon Musk and the DOGE cuts. In Virginia, voters protested at some mobile office hours for Republican Congressman Ron Whitman. The staffer usually leads these sessions, but constituents, they showed up, they wanted to hear from the congressman himself. Instead, they heard from a government worker, a former government employee, who also wanted some answers from the congressman.
These mass terminations without any assessment of the American people's needs will end up costing taxpayers more money. When disrupting the services, you want to know why no one's at the Social Security office? They're firing people.
People there accuse the Republican congressman of hiding from his constituents. Here is then what the Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson had to say last night about all of this blowback.
The videos you saw of the town halls were for paid protesters in many of those places. These are Democrats who went to the events early and filled up the seats. If the videos had panned,
You can't argue they were all paid protesters, though, Mr. Speaker. What Republican acknowledged they were his constituents?
One Republican acknowledged they were his constituents.
First of all, he said many were, not all. Let's rewind that. This is the problem with CNN, is that they always misrepresent the people.
Look at how Speaker Mike Johnson had to say last night about all of this blowback.
The videos you saw of the town halls were for paid protesters in many of those places. These are Democrats.
Paid protesters in many of those places. He didn't say all.
If the videos had
You
panned
can't argue
outside
they
the
were all
building,
paid protesters, though. Mr.
He didn't say that. See, this is the problem with CNN, right there, right exactly. This is the problem with her. This is that she takes something that someone says and then expands it out and takes it out of context. And this is all happening within 30 seconds. She's bull. She is.
now there it's,
I wish
it's-
CNN would
that's
fire
fantastic,
her ass.
okay, but they had Democrats come and fill the seats early.
Joining us right now is Democratic Congressman Jason Crow from Colorado. Congressman, it's good to see you. The House Speaker, they're seeming to dismiss this blowback. We've seen no evidence that, one, people were paid, and two, Democrats can be Republican members of Congress constituents as well. You have Republicans in your district. I have seen examples of people attending these events saying that they're lifelong Republicans and live in those districts. What is your reaction to what seems to be Johnson's shoulder shrug response to this?
Well, let's first of all compare the images here. You just showed a video of the first cabinet meeting, and they were laughing and patting each other on the back and clapping, as if everything is fine. They're taking their victory lap. At the same time, if you actually get outside of the DC bubble, you get outside of the swamp, and make no mistake, all these people in the cabinet meeting, these are creatures of the swamp, right? These are billionaires, these are elite executives, these are oil and gas executives, these are lifetime politicians. If you get outside of that room and you go around America, people are hurting, they're afraid, they are feeling the real cuts of what's happening, the real human impact of what's happening, and they're pissed, and they should be pissed. And they're starting to stand up and to be heard. And my Republican colleagues can certainly ignore them, but they are not going away.
I mean, you wrote about this yesterday. It grabbed my attention. You said the lesson from tough town halls isn't to run away. You said, I'm hosting a town hall tomorrow, meeting today, because my constituents have a right to know where I stand and what I'm doing to advocate for them. I mean, what are you hearing from your constituents, and what do you expect to hear from them today?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, showing up and listening is fundamental to the job. It is the most basic element of the job. The people you represent have a right to know what you're doing, where you stand, the votes you're taking, and for you to stand in front of them and to be accountable for that. And they may not always agree with you, but they have a right to know that. If I do a town hall and I have a very mixed district, I have a lot of Republicans, I'm the first Democrat ever to hold my seat in Congress. But I'll show up and I'll have Republicans to say, you know what? I don't necessarily always agree with you, but at least I know where you stand, and I don't think you're lying to me, and you're being transparent. I'll take that, right? Because that's the start of a conversation, and we can actually develop trust and go somewhere with that. So obviously we need more than that. If the Republicans are going to shut that out and refuse to listen, there will be consequences to that sooner, probably rather than later. They need to show up and need to hear the pain and suffering that their policies are going to inflict on their constituents.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the NAC. NAC helps to boost up glutathione levels. Also helps to detoxify your liver and your kidney. And it's going to help to also improve your pulmonary function. All right, a lot of people don't know this, but actually NAC has been found in research to improve individuals that have COPD or individuals that have mucus buildup, and it helps to break up that mucus buildup. So it's a great way to improve your lung health, especially when you get older. All right. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the NAC, boost up those glutathione levels, help with your lung health, right? Detoxify your kidney and your liver. and reduce anxiety. By reducing anxiety, you're going to actually bring down those cortisol levels and go into parasympathetic mode. And when you do that, your heart's at a lower heart rate, your body's calmer, and your immune system will be better because you don't have the high cortisol levels. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the NAC. NAC is really important for lung health. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Digestive enzyme complex. This helps to reduce the load on your pancreas. It's going to break up carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids. It's also great for athletes to help to fuel your body quicker in your pre and post workout fueling and reduce that load on your pancreas, but also for people that are older, 40 plus years of age. Very important to reduce the load on your pancreas, help with breaking up proteins, carbohydrates, and lipids. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the digestive enzyme complex. Digestive enzyme complex also helps to break up clots because it has bromelain in it, and bromelain is fibrinolytic. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Now, C60. C60 is a very important antioxidant. This antioxidant, you can get in an MCT coconut oil, avocado oil, or extra virgin olive oil. You can get it in a 2 ounce, a 4 ounce, or an 8 ounce configuration. Take a teaspoon a day. It's best to take it on an empty stomach, but take a teaspoon a day. If you're working out, take it before your workout because it's going to soak up the free radicals that you're creating during your workout, and you're going to be able to recover quicker. In addition, C60, as it's soaking up those free radicals, it's going to help the health of the mitochondria. That means you're going to have more energy and healthier mitochondria. That means that your cells are going to perform better, your tissues are going to perform better, your organ systems are going to perform better, your immune system will perform better, your endocrine system will perform better, your brain will perform better. Why? Because in your brain, you have lots of neurons, and neurons need lots of mitochondria. So by soaking up the free radicals that are in your being produced in your neuron, when you soak up those free radicals, you're improving the mitochondrial health, and you're going to have more ATP. So what's going to happen is you're producing more neurotransmitters, and they're releasing from the neuron, the presynaptic neuron. And when you have more firing, then you're going to have neuroplasticity, positive neuroplasticity. With positive neuroplasticity, you're going to think quicker, you're going to have better memory, you're going to have more energy, you're going to have a better mental acuity. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the C60 and MCT coconut oil, avocado oil, or extra virgin olive oil in a 2 ounce, a 4 ounce, or an 8 ounce configuration. If you buy it in a higher ounce configuration, it's actually cheaper for you per ounce. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the C60, take a teaspoon a day, take it every day. And what you're going to notice is that you're aging slower, you're soaking up the free radicals, and your tissues in your organ systems are going to perform better. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. It's the-studio-reykjavik.com. All right. Pam Bondi drops DEI lawsuit against police fire departments. I don't know what's going on there.
Shannon Bream is with me now. All right, Shannon, how do you think our president looks on the world stage after less than 40 days in office?
Stu, he is calling the shots. I think that is fair to say. Remember, after he'd been elected, but before he even took office, he went to that gathering at Notre Dame, and we saw world leader one after another coming up, gripping, grinning, looking like they wanted to be in his good graces. And since he's gotten into the White House, as you said, it's sort of on steroids. One foreign visit after another, one deal after another, a lot of negotiating, some of it public, some of it private. And I think that the world knows there's a new sheriff in town. He plays by different roles, and they've got to come to the game.
Shannon, Attorney General Pam Bondi has dismissed all DEI lawsuits involving police officers and firefighters. She says the Biden administration unjustly targeted departments for using aptitude tests to screen candidates. Bondi said, American communities deserve firefighters and police officers to be chosen for their skills and dedication to public safety, not to meet DEI quotas. So, is DEI officially dead?
Well, listen, when it comes to what the Justice Department is going to do with regard to all of these fire and police departments, she said, listen, if there's a standardized test here that weeds out people, and you got to say that it's based solely on skill or a physical test, those kinds of things, we should want our public servants who are willing to serve, who are willing to put themselves in the line of danger to be the most physically fit, the most prepared and familiar with all the things that they need to know to do that. So she said, no more lawsuits for that. Communities want to be protected. They want to be safe. And we want to honor the people who do these tests, who go through the legwork. They score well. Don't penalize them because they're not part of a specific group and you're trying to hit quotas. The lawsuits are gone.
I need you to explain something. The Supreme Court seems likely to side with an Ohio woman in a reverse discrimination case. She claims she was treated unfairly at work because she's straight. What would that ruling mean for the general public?
Well, here's what's been happening, Stu, is that if you are part of what is considered a majority group, you don't need special protections, as has been recognized in the past. In this case, this woman says she's heterosexual. She was passed over for promotion. The job was given to.
There is a breaking news about the Pope requesting the meeting of the cardinals. I think it's called a consistory. And they're going to meet at the Vatican. The last time that they did this, or supposedly this is, sometimes there are meetings with cardinals, but because of his health issue with the meeting of the cardinals, this might be the preparation of him, what is going to happen with his death. I think he's going to die soon here, like within days or a week. That's probably what's happening here. So we'll see what happens. So media remind us that during a similar event, Pope Benedict the 16th, announced his resignation 12 years ago. So we'll see what happens, but there seems to be some movement at the Vatican.
Somebody who was gay, her old job when she was demoted was given to someone who was gay, and her supervisor was gay. So her allegations are that she was discriminated against because she's straight. Now, lower courts had said to her, not only do you have to come forward with a basic claim of discrimination, you, because you're in one of these majority classes, not a protected class, you have to provide additional proof that there really was something nefarious going on. Well, most of the justices said yesterday, don't we all agree that we want all discrimination cases to be treated the same, regardless of who you are, who the plaintiff is? Even the Ohio Solicitor General, who was arguing against this woman, said, we all agree that we want everybody to be treated the same way. So no extra proof required if you happen to be white or heterosexual or whatever it is. It seemed like the court might possibly, Stu, be unanimous in that decision.
Well, that would be interesting. Shannon Breen, thanks for joining us. We'll see you again soon. We will watch you this weekend on Fox News Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern, of course, on Fox.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the structural nanosilver gel. This is a dual purpose gel. You can get it in a tube form or an easy dispenser. Make sure you have this at work, at home, because you never know when you need it. If you're around someone that's sick, put it on your hands, around your eyes, around your nose, around your mouth, around your ears. Lightly coat your nostrils. Stays active for 5.5 hours. You can help to heal wounds, scrapes, abrasions. It'll heal quicker. You can use it as a skincare, a daily skincare. You can use it as an aftershave on your, women, or you're shaving your legs. Use it as an aftershave so you don't get razor burn, and it helps to heal the skin. Guys, after you shave your face, use it on your face, and it'll help to cool down that razor burn feel. So it's a dual purpose product. It's a skincare. It helps to heal wounds. And if people are sick around you, guess what? Use this. It's way better than Pearl. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Please get the structural nano silver gel, dual purpose. Use discount 5 and get $5 off any order.
Of the session, so we have seen markets take a bit of a leg down here, and some pressure. There's a lot of things coming at investors once again. It's some of the stuff we just talked about with Laura, rather, in terms of tariffs. You know, is it more tariffs? Is it sooner? Is it later? So looking for some clarification. But then it's certainly worrying investors, companies, and consumers alike.
Hey, coming up next on Bloomberg Business, we're going to be sticking with this on YouTube or Bloomberg Radio. We're going to be joined by retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman. He's got a new book out, and we're certainly going to be talking about the latest with Russia and Ukraine. If you're listening to it and watching Bloomberg Business Take It Close is up next.
All right. While we're waiting for them to cycle back, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Boomer Boost. Boomer Boost is a powder that has 68 nutrients. It targets several different systems, such as your muscles and your strength, your cardiovascular health, your brain health. It boosts up your energy levels and your metabolism. It has 68 ingredients in it. It has a pantheon of compounds here that help to boost up your health. Now, there's a big scooper, you take it every day. All right. Now, you can mix it with soft foods like hummus or yogurt. You can mix it with filtered water. Some people mix it with milk and have a shake. But this is your meal, either for breakfast or for lunch. And what you'll notice is that you're going to lose weight. You're going to have a lot more energy throughout the day. Your energy will be burning throughout the day and not spike. You're going to sleep better. And you're just going to have that will to go and work out. You're just going to have just more vitality. I'm not joking. You will see these benefits that I'm talking about within 72 hours. Within 72 hours, you're going to start seeing the benefits. You take it every day. You take it for breakfast or for lunch. All right. You're going to lose weight. You're going to help to control your blood glucose levels. And if you're doing this holistic approach that I keep on telling everybody, doing cardio, doing some resistance training, doing balancing exercises and stretching exercises, you're going to be improving your overall health. But again, this targets the cardiovascular system, your musculature, your brain health, all right, and also your metabolism. So it's a great way to get healthy. And if you do that every day, you're really going to see these improvements that I'm talking about, with slowing down the aging process and having more longevity, more vitality. All right. Now you can stack it also with the barley. Now you can take the barley separately with the Boomer Boost, or take them together. Now it's better that you take them together. Now you can get the heirloom barley or the gladiator barley. Heirloom barley detoxifies your body, brings down inflammation, so it's helping with your immune system, and also it's going to soak up free radicals by superoxide dismutase. It's a high density protein. You have a scooper in here, do a half or a full scoop per day. Gladiator barley get all the benefits in gladiator barley as you have with the heirloom barley, but it also helps with strength. So if you're doing resistance training, right, and you want to build muscle, you want to take the gladiator barley, all right? But if you're not so concerned about the strength side of things, take the heirloom barley. Now you can take them separately, but if you stack it with the Boomer Boost, it's supercharged, all right? Again, if you're stacking it, you take it for your lunch or your breakfast, mix it with soft foods, filtered water, some people mix it with milk or a smoothie, right? That's your breakfast or your lunch. And what's going to happen is you're going to be able to control your A1C levels. So you're controlling borderline diabetes or diabetes. And for most people, you know, because most people, they're not type 1, they're type 2. But the point here is that you can bring down your A1C numbers, and you're boosting up your energy levels. And this high density protein here, all right, is going to help to build muscle. Now, you can take the heirloom barley with the Boomer Boost and get all the benefits that you would be getting with the Gladiator barley minus the strength. Now, if you are an athlete, your best combo is taking the Boomer Boost and the Gladiator barley and doing the resistance training, and you're going to recover quicker, and you're going to have all the nutrients you need to fuel your body for that athletic performance. You can use this as a pre or post fueling for your workout. All right. Now, the highest quality athletic stack to do is the Boomer Boost, the Gladiator barley, the Myotrol with the collagen. And when you do all that together, the collagen, the Boomer Boost, the Gladiator barley with the Myotrol, you're going to be able to really get all the ingredients you need to fuel your body for that athletic performance and to heal the body quickly so you recover quickly and soak up those free radicals. All right, so you're getting all the nutrients you need. You're getting the high density protein, very high quality high density protein, because there's high density protein that's low quality. This is high quality high density protein. And the collagen to help with your joints, your bone health, and your muscles. And then the Myotrol helps with gene expression to build muscle and to maintain the muscle. So that's like a super stack if you're athletic, all right? But you can take these separately. But again, by stacking it the way I'm telling you, you're going to get like supercharged benefits. So go to my store, get the Boomer Boost, the Gladiator barley, or the heirloom barley at the-studio-reykjavik.com. Use discount 5 and you get $5 off. Now you can go and get my longevity box, my longevity boost box. All right. You get Boomer Boost and your choice of heirloom barley or Gladiator barley. All right. And that box, that longevity boost box, is at a discount, and you can add an additional discount of $5 by using discount 5 on top of it. So you can buy these separately, it's up to you, or you can buy them in the longevity box and you get a discount, built-in discount. I want you to be taking these products, because if you take these products like the Boomer Boost and the Gladiator and you stack it like I'm telling you, you're literally going to see major improvements in your health within 72 hours. I'm not joking. So get healthy, work out, follow this holistic program that I'm talking about and all these different supplements and how to stack them. And you are literally going to slow down your age. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com.
1.1%. We're keeping an eye on Nvidia shares. Nvidia trading lower today after earnings. It delivered good but not great quarterly numbers, drawing a muted response from investors accustomed to blowout results. Nvidia right now down 6.2%. Lisa Shallot is Chief Investment Officer for Wealth Management at Morgan Stanley. She was interviewed on Bloomberg The Open.
Investors understand that these, hyper growth stories mature, and you get to a point of, the law of large numbers where some of these growth rates are inevitably going to decelerate.
Lisa Shallot of Morgan Stanley again. Nvidia shares right now down by 6%. Also reporting earnings last night. Salesforce.com down 3%. Snowflake which reported last night, up now by 6.9%. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Hey, thanks so much for that update, Charlie. Do appreciate it. Let's talk a little bit about stocks that are moving. Everyone's talking about Nvidia, but check out shares of Snowflake. Earlier in the session, they were up as much as 12.5%, 13%. The company projected better than expected revenue growth for the fiscal year, sending an optimistic signal about the adoption of its recently launched products for AI. Meanwhile, shares of Nvidia are lower. We talked about that quite a bit earlier in our program with Ian King out there in San Francisco. For everything AI and more, we got with us Mandeep Singh. He's Bloomberg Intelligence Senior Tech Industry Analyst. He joins us here in the Bloomberg Interactive Brokers studio. Everybody's focused on Nvidia. Meanwhile, you got Snowflake out here kind of blowing things away.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the focus seems to be shifting from the chip makers, the GPU guys, towards more the software layer.
This was the opposite story that we had last year, where the focus was on the hardware providers.
Yeah.
And the software companies were getting beat up.
And the risk that was highlighted in the market was software margins are going to take a big hit because you have, chip makers really commanding the pricing for GPUs, and then the model providers like OpenAI and Anthropic coming in and, charging their fee. And so software margins would take a hit, and it would impact a company like Snowflake that really focuses on data, and given the model providers are ingesting so much data, it could disrupt the business model for a company like Snowflake. Well, it doesn't look like that's the case, because at the end, the database businesses are very sticky. And that's what everyone realizes over time, that once you start using a product, you ingest your data in that product, it's very hard to completely rip and replace it.
Something is going on. There looks like there's some sort of Palestinian protest going on right now. I don't know where. It's New York. This is happening in New York. All right, it's pro-Palestinian protesters march outside Bernard College. What's interesting is they're all covering their face. A lot of them are white. Interesting.
One kind of centralized source of data that you can use to train your AI, to customize your AI, because the LLMs give you generic functionality. So to customize it, you need to use the data that Snowflake has for that enterprise. And that's, I think, the vision that Databricks sold. Databricks did really well. It's a private company, but everyone is excited about their IPO. And I think Snowflake is a very tough competitor to do that.
I was just going to ask you, is Databricks coming for Snowflake, or has it already come for Snowflake?
I mean, this field has a lot of, pure play competitors. I would put even Palantir in that bucket. And we talked about Palantir, how they have, black box type of solution that is very good for specific purposes. I would say Databricks and Snowflake are more generic data warehouses where it can appeal to a broader set of enterprises than Palantir, which is more specific. But clearly, all of them look at data, try to organize it in a way where it can be used in an AI agent type of functionality that everyone is talking about. And the foundation of all AI is data. So these are the companies that specialize in data, and that's why they command a premium multiple. And Palantir, we know, has traded at a very high multiple. And Snowflake, since its IPO, used to trade at a very high multiple, but then they had a very sharp deceleration in top line growth. Now things seem to be rebounding here.
Hey, just to kind of wrap up, Nvidia, we talked about it a lot with you yesterday. And I just do feel like over the last 24, 48 hours, maybe even like the last week or so, that the conversation around AI, it's growing up a little bit, right? It's evolving. Is that fair to say? Or how do you see it? You're the expert here. I'm just the idiot who asked the questions.
Look, everyone feels we are still in a supply constrained environment, and the demand is still there. But when it comes to, just the discussion we were having around the cluster sizes
Right.
and how big do you want to train your models, Jensen called out the shift to reasoning models, and he said reasoning models will use a lot of compute, but that wasn't the narrative 90 days back.
Right.
So we have seen a change in narrative in terms of the pivot to reasoning models post DeepSeek and the fact that NVIDIA is positioning around it, but that wasn't their focus 90 days back. So I would say that's how I would characterize it.
All right, maybe not such a stupid question. No, I'm just saying.
Carol, I can't believe you said that.
Hey, listen, when I have an expert,
I ask the stupid questions,
when I have
not
been
you.
here, I'm like, oh
Come
my God,
on.
I'm learning so much. No, it's just interesting to see how things evolve. Mandeep, thank you so much. Mandeep Singh, he's Bloomberg Intelligence Senior Tech Industry Analyst.
Okay, Nvidia, a stock on the move today. Certainly Snowflake is another stock that's on the move today. It's ticker mRNA. It's Moderna, and that is down about 5.5%. U.S. health officials are reevaluating a $590 million contract for bird flu shots that the Biden administration awarded to Moderna. People familiar with the matter said this is a Bloomberg exclusive, by the way, that moved shares of the company. The U.S. is in the midst of a record-breaking bird flu outbreak that's affected dozens of cattle herds along with poultry flocks nationwide. Carol, it's sent egg prices soaring.
Yeah, it's something we've been watching, especially when we saw that the Trump administration canceled an upcoming meeting of the FDA's Vaccine Advisory Committee, a move that could complicate efforts to produce flu shots in time for the upcoming season. There's a lot going on here. We're going to kind of throw it at Jenny Rook, who's back with us. Hello. She's the founder and managing director of Genoa Ventures. It's a VC firm, invests in, as she says, the quote, next generation of companies at the convergence of technology and biology, which Tim and I are really, really interested in. The administration, first of all, important research gets done, gets funded, things come out of the government that goes to the private sector. There's concerns about maybe we won't have so much focus on vaccines and viruses. I'm not speaking out as an attorney here. It's just the narrative around this. How do you see?
All right. So I've been transmitting for a while here. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the products that I offer, help support my work by donating. You can donate through Stripe, PayPal, or buy me a coffee on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Be a paid member to my Patreon channel. And so I can do these videos for free. I have thousands of videos for free. And I tell you lots of things, especially when things are breaking. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Thank you for listening. For the ones that have been listening through X Spaces, or the ones that have been watching the live stream on YouTube. Again, I also live stream on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Have a nice day.